Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 206 of Brewer Andrew McCready, the podcast Adjunct series. Folks, we are heading to the capital. Well, it's not the capital, is it? To Toronto tonight. And this is a brewery that we've been talking for a little bit, and a relatively new brewery who's been heavily awarded recently, what we're going to get into, and arguably maybe the smallest brewery in the city, which is pretty cool. We recently did a fantastic collab, which obviously we're going to talk about on the pod for our 10th anniversary, which is phenomenal. It was super fun. It was super creative. Really great. It's been great getting to know this gentleman and to see what this business is doing for the community that they're in, for, to see the way people are so excited about what he's doing and also what he's doing for the homebrew scene as well. So we're going to get into all that. I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked to get into this. So folks, let me get this nice and proper here. Please welcome, Andrew from Bickford in the building.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Big Andrew. How you doing, man?
All right.
Good to see you. Thank you for hanging out. Glad we're finally doing this, man. It's a great time, actually.
Yeah, no, perfect.
I'm glad we're doing it post-collab so we can yap about all that. And,
that was a good call for sure.
Yeah, I know we didn't talk about that off air, so of course, we have that all lined up. So I'm super excited. Now, you have curated, we've got a bunch of beer, and we're going to see which directions we're going to go tonight. We're kind of we got a few planned, but we're going to play it by vibes, which I think is more exciting. But we are going to start on this glorious little guy right here. The Patio Crusher Peach Lake Lager. Come on now. Let's get some bit of focus there. There we go. This one's relatively new, right?
Yeah, that one just came out a couple weeks ago.
Yes, that's what I thought, because you're telling me about it when I came by last weekend before. And it sounded, I think you were saying that was the newest one. So this is your pilot batch series. So maybe do you want to talk about the beer and talk about that series as well?
Yeah, so the pilot batch series is basically because we have such a small system, when we do tester batches or new things that we're just trying out, we don't get a fresh order labels for them because a batch size is 200 and something cans. So this is the generic we put on new beers that we're just trying out, and this one's been incredibly popular since we released it a couple weeks ago. So this will probably become a summer seasonal, so this will probably be back next summer with its own label. And in fact, I'm just next week, I think I'm brewing a new batch of it, and I'm going to do a tangerine version of it. So basically the beer, it's a light lager, 3.5%, very lightly fruited. It's meant to still drink like a light lager. It's not meant to drink like a full on fruit beer, but
Gotcha.
Just it's called Patio Crusher. It's meant to be the beer people crush on the patio on a hot day. And that's what it's become since we released it. Anytime that it's nice out, it's I look at the sales and it's our top seller, and it's people drinking it out on the patio. So
that makes sense. I mean, it's only 3.5, so it's kind of money for that, right?
Yeah, people love a light, easy drinking beer in the summer, right?
It seems to be more and more popular. I feel like it was always kind of a thing, but I feel like that the ABV that they're looking for has been dropping over time as sort of non-alc and low ABV has become more popular that I've kind of seen.
Totally. And our brew system, the way our brew system is I actually can't do very high ABV. So it kind of leads to most of our beers sitting around 4 or 5. We don't have really many beers above 5, and we get a lot of comments that people like that because it's that's kind of where beer is kind of trended, is there's always room in the market for the hazy IPAs, but generally people are looking for more of those easier drinking styles, English bitters and blonde ales and lagers and stuff that's not quite as heavy. Right. So we get a lot of comments about how our tap list isn't just filled with high ABV stouts and high ABV IPAs and stuff. So
that's really interesting. I guess that makes complete sense. It's totally on trend. And with that, brother, cheers. Get that in you. So the nose is straight lager, a hint of the peach, like you said, it's subtle, right?
Yeah. The peach should just really come off as a light note. It's meant to be super easy drinking still.
Yeah. It's almost a little bit not at all. No, it's definitely tastes like it's more ballsy than 3.5 for sure. So,
Yeah.
which is a testament to the beer. And the peach is kind of like a little kick in the back end, just like a touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how. So I wasn't aware that you could do lagers on that system just because of the
So
temperature
yeah.
issue, right?
So a traditional lager is tough on my system. I don't have my tanks aren't insulated. They're not
Okay.
jacketed. I can't go quite as low temp wise on them. So this is made with a yeast product that's kind of meant, it's kind of, they call it a hybrid yeast product. It's meant for doing lagers at warmer than normal temperatures with less
No way.
lengthy lagering. And you're limited. You can't, like, I couldn't pull off like a beautiful like Czech style Pilsner or something on it, but I could pull off something like an American light lager or beers that have certain types of beers. I did a California Common, but that's like a lager that's already fermented at warmer temperatures normally. So I was able to do that, and that came off well. But yeah, there are some limitations. But and honestly, the way this beer was born is I had limited malt left over. It wasn't quite my Rio. I wouldn't have been able to get an order in time for when I had a window to brew. And so I'm like, what beer can I design around the ingredients I have? So when you're running low on ingredients, something like a light lager, right? Because you don't need as much grain. So I was able to put together a recipe with the amount of grain I had on hand, and it just sounded like it would be a good fit because of the summer, and it's, like I said, it's been a hit. So
that's so sick, man. Really love that. Now that how would I say it, like situation where you sort of have to make, or try to make something with what you've got remaining, is that like a skill that you would have picked up homebrewing as far as that?
Oh, for sure, because that's a common homebrewing thing. You have like a lot of times people call them the kitchen sink beer, where it's like they have a little bit of remnants of all these ingredients, and it's like, what can I make with these little remnants of this hop and that hop and like this grain and that grain, where I don't really have enough of any one thing to make what you would normally make with that. So it's like coming up ways to use your ingredients you have on hand. And the reason I have to do that on my scale is because I don't have storage for a pallet of malt on site. So I order my grain like a batch or two, 3 batches at a time. So yeah, I kind of in that regard face a lot of the same things that a home brewer would, as opposed to a pro brewer, because typically a pro brewer will order like a whole pallet of malt, right? So they're well equipped to brew whatever they're going to brew. So it also leads to them tending to plan their brews more in advance, right? Because which I don't tend to do. I tend to I'm starting to plan it out a little bit more, but so far this first year I've been kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So
it's working.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it is.
Would it take away the creativity for you if you had to overly plan? Like, would that kind of like, because you're so used to flying by the seat of your pants as such with the homebrew vibe?
Yeah, I would say currently what I'm doing is I'm kind of loosely planning. So I am leaving some wiggle room in the schedule to like fit something in if I feel like, I need to add something in. Right. One of the good things about my system size too is you sell through a batch pretty quickly, and that leads to being able to like keep the tap list fresh. You're never like some bigger breweries, you end up with a situation where they brew a beer and it's going to sit on the tap for quite a while because they've got a lot of it to sell through, which means it's harder to find that opening in the tap lineup that they can fit something new, in a season where they're trying to squeeze something in. Whereas I have 13 taps and the stuff sells out pretty quick. So I'm kind of always kind of fitting something in when there's a gap, when something sells out. So
that's pretty sick, man. That's like that's like probably the best, let's say argument. It's not really an argument, but the best kind of like feature of a smaller system like yours is that. Yeah.
There's a lot of
you'll
downside.
Never drink old beer. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure obviously the ABV restriction is a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But like having that ability, that flexibility, like you said, to just be like, either spontaneous or to be like tell people, hey, if you come in this week and you come in next week, there's basically always going to be new beer, and you'll never really have anything that would be considered old because it's going to sell through.
Yeah, we have some customers in the neighborhood that will come in every like 3 weeks or so, and when they come in, they're like, "What's new?" And we'll have like 2 new beers for them since the last time they were in. Depending on the time of year, right? Because we do a new beer every week. We brew a beer a week, and sometimes we're brewing some of the core beers, so it's not something new. But we go through stretches where like 3-4 weeks in a row, every week is a new beer hitting the tap that that wasn't there the previous week. So
that's fun. I love that, and
the new stuff tends to sell quickly, like the
one-offs.
Yeah, we're especially like something that is hitting like a seasonal niche, like something people are looking for, like the Patio Crusher. That one's been like we put it on like a couple weeks ago, and it's almost gone. So
damn.
Yeah,
I mean, that's amazing. And look, speaking of almost gone, I mean, I'm flying through this. This is
it's an easy one to drink.
Yeah, this is a beaut, man. It's like the peach. The more I'm drinking it, like once my first, I always wait if I'm doing the pod, I don't drink before. So first beer, I'm always getting the palate adjusted to everything. So like, get a few sips in, I'm like that. The peach is like sitting just right where it needs to be in this, where it's like, it's not overpowering, because fruity lagers depends. It's not really my thing, but this is just right. And it's great that it's like such a light base that but still packing tons of flavor, and the peach is not like rising above the other flavors of the malts and everything else. So it's you did a great job with this, bro. I can see why it's nearly done.
Yeah, a lot of people for fruit beer, they would say it's not enough fruit, but like you said, like nobody wants a light lager that all you taste is peaches. Like,
get a seltzer or something, like have a cocktail.
Yeah.
Totally different product. I meant to ask before, what did you use for the peach? Did you put like puree, or was it natural flavors?
Yeah, so I used puree in the fermenter. Like post fermentation, I added puree, and then it undergoes like another fermentation where it ferments the sugars in the puree, and then I add like a hint of like a natural like extract into the bright tank when I'm packaging, just to kind of I find the fermentation, because the sugars get consumed by the yeast. The fermentation get the puree in the fermenter gives you some of the depth, but you're kind of missing that top note. It kind of goes away when the sugars go away, and when you add a little bit of that extract into it, you kind of get that a little bit more of the aroma that gets blown off during fermentation, and you get that kind of like top note of the peach character that just kind of pushes it over the top.
Interesting. That makes complete sense, though.
But it's the kind of thing, if you tried to just make a fruit beer and just added the extract, it would come off as like one-dimensional and fake, right? You need the depth of the puree in there to kind of like make it make it more than one-dimensional.
Or it's a peach ring in a beer.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really what you're going after. And I feel like, if it had that fake flavor, it would be like the Bud Light versions when they had the Bud Light lime or the apple one or that bullshit. Like, and I think you got like just the right levels in this. This is fantastic. And you said tangerine is the next one, so people can look out for that.
Tangerine. Yeah.
I mean, by the time this comes out, it's to come out in about 2 weeks, so it might even be close.
I think I'm brewing it in 2 weeks, so it'll be very close. It'll be very close. It'll be a couple weeks away when this comes out. Then
people can keep an eye on that. Then that's beautiful. I love it. So with that, because I feel like this beer is going to go much for both of us pretty damn quick.
Mine's almost done.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I got a little more in the can.
You got a little more in there. Let's maybe start the story, and whenever we both kind of finish, we'll just move on to the next beer. But let's get into how you got into beer, and obviously, as we're sort of speaking about your home brewing kind of days, and how that led to opening the brewery itself.
Yeah, so I was never really a beer drinker when I was growing up, when I was in high school, when I was after high school, I was never really a beer drinker. And then I guess it was like my late 20s, early 30s, I kind of started drinking beer, and I discovered craft beer, and I realized that I just didn't like macro lagers. I lived in a small town. Our options were like Molson and OV, and like I just didn't like those. So so I kind of, I guess it's not really craft, but the gateways to craft, like at the time, were like, Steam Whistle and Creemore and stuff. It wasn't. This was, well, would have been in my early 30s. I'm in my like early 40s now, so like maybe 10 15 years ago. So
gotcha. Yeah, the options would have been quite limited.
Yeah, and it's like so yeah, and then I started getting into actual craft beer as more and more breweries were opening and stuff, and I hit a point where I was like, drinking a decent amount of some craft beer, drinking stuff like Left Field and stuff like that, and I was just like, I should get a tap system in my house and buy kegs from breweries. And I got looking into like keg systems, and they cost a bunch of money, and then people are building their own, and I started looking into building my own. All the websites for building your own keg fridges are all homebrew sites, because that's what homebrewers do, is they build their own keg fridge out of like an old freezer or an old fridge. Right. And so I got looking into doing that. And then as I'm on the homebrew sites, I start looking at the homebrew equipment. I'm like, I should just make my own beer. Right. So I bought some equipment from Toronto Brewing, and I did maybe 3 extract batches, which I don't know if you've ever brewed extract, but yeah, where you're adding like the liquid syrups and the
DME
powder
and LME. It's disgusting. Yeah. And even the hops, isn't the hops in some weird format too? It's not pellets.
A lot of people now are getting pellets, but a lot of those kits, the big issue with them too is everybody has a bad opinion of dry yeast, right? Brewing with dry yeast. And it's because those old homebrew kits came with a packet of dry yeast that had been in the packet for like 10 years or something like that. So their experience of dry yeast is an old expired packet of yeast that makes terrible beer.
That's so gross. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's got to be a big part of it. Aside from the fact that it's almost like fake malt. Well, it's not fake malt, but the dry or the liquid. Ugh.
And you just have limited options for getting the malt character you want, right? Because you do the thing where you add the syrup and stuff, or the powder, and then like you take the specialty grains and you like crack it and you hang it inside in a bag and steep it. But it's not the same thing as mashing grains. Like you don't get the full character. So I did, I think 2 or 3 batches of extract, and I was like, I want to get deeper into this. So I bought a Grainfather, which is like an all-in-one. Great.
Wow, that's a big commitment off the rip.
Yeah. I was into it.
That was like always the goal, because me and my friend, my first co-host, we were home brewing, and there was always like the Grainfather was like, if you got that means you're like not messing around. Yeah.
So the main reason I went for the Grainfather is I was brewing in a small condo, and when I was doing the extract batches, I was doing them in like a kettle on my stove, and it was a lot of equipment, and it took up space. Whereas the Grainfather, literally everything packs inside of it. And it just you stick it in a corner, and it takes up minimal space because it's all one thing. Right. So I got that, and I started doing all grain batches. I found GTA Brews, and I started. I went to a couple of meetings, and then they do the competition circuit. So every home brew club in the country. Every major homebrew club in the country does a yearly homebrew competition. So, and there's somebody that tracks the points among all these homebrew competitions throughout the year. And then there's a brewer of the year at the end of the year. So there's like a whole circuit. And one of the things GTA Brews does is they heavily subsidize the shipping. So they make it super easy for you to enter into like a homebrew comp in Calgary or Vancouver or wherever on the circuit. They just basically I think you end up paying like, I don't want to say because I'm probably wrong now, that's probably gone up, but it's not very much. It's like a couple bucks per entry or something like that. And they just pack them all up in boxes with like protective that protect the bottles, and they ship them on a pallet. They ship them on, on a pallet in a like refrigerated truck across the country, like a temperature controlled truck, so you don't have to
Jesus.
worry in the winter about like bottles like exploding. You don't need to worry about in the summer about your bottles sitting in a hot truck while they cross the country. Like I think the trucks like hold steady at like 8 degrees or 9 degrees or something like that.
Amazing.
So they make it super easy. So it's like it really was a good way to draw new brewers into submitting to competitions by making it just so easy. So I was just like, you know what? I've done like 2 or 3 all grain batches. I think at that point I'd done 3, and I'm like, I'll submit them. And I think my second competition, the second beer I'd made all grain and the third beer I'd made all grain both medaled.
Wow.
So that I was immediately hooked. So I went heavy into the competition circuit for the rest of the year. And then I ended up at the end of the year, I was 19th in the country.
Jesus, on your first year.
In my first year. And I was all set to like plan out my year and like optimize when I brewed stuff for the competitions in the next year. And that was 2020. So we got one competition and then they all got shut down for the rest of the year. So
okay. So they still didn't do them remote, I guess, because they'd probably be too difficult.
They eventually did. It took them a little while, like partway into the year. They started doing them and the way they would do them, because typically the way they judge them is they've got a big room with a bunch of judges. Judges are in pairs, so 2 judges both sample the same beer, they chat about it, and they write their scorecards. So the way they started doing it, like partway into 2020, is you would have to submit extra bottles, and they would just send the bottles to people's houses. So 2 judges would still taste the same beer, but they would chat about it over Zoom. But it meant that you had to submit twice as many beers, because normally that you send the bottle for them to test and both judges pour from that bottle, right? But obviously you had to submit twice as many bottles. But once when they started doing that, at that point we were, looking at having kids and stuff. So I just didn't have time to brew at the competition level anymore by the late 2020. So I still homebrewed just rarely. And then sometime around then I applied to this weird job. It was like a restaurant in Stouffville where the guy was looking for somebody to brew small batches just for them to serve at their restaurant. So I ended up taking that job, and that was basically, I set up their homebrews, it was like a large homebrew system. It was like, right. It was basically 1 barrel, which is like 120 liters per batch. And I would go up there every 2 weeks and brew a batch. I'd package the previous batch and then brew a new batch. And then basically in between, I would just give the chef instructions on cellaring tasks to do, like lower this tank to this temperature, like add hops to this tank. And I just showed him how to do that stuff. So it was the chef doing my cellaring tasks for me. And I would just go every 2 weeks, and it would be a long day, but it was because I was commuting by Go train. So it was like a 14-15 hour day. So I didn't want to go multiple days. So I was like, I'm just going to go one day. I'll package the previous beer, clean the tanks, and brew all in one day. So basically I'd be starting the brew and packaging and cleaning the tanks and rushing to get the tanks clean in time to put the new beer into it. So that I did that for a little bit. And then, when we had our second kid, I just couldn't do the commute anymore. So I left there, and then we got looking into, I started contracting. So I released Dog Park Pale Ale, which might be a good segue to our next beer, which I think we were going to do Dog Park next.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, may as well. Yep. I'm done this one. Let's go, brother.
Cool.
Dog Park it is. So this beer, Andrew linked me this beer back in when did you first contract this beer? Because I remember you.
So I released this beer in September. I think September of 2023.
Okay, because I remember
I probably sent it to you in like January of 2024. It's probably early 2024 is my guess.
Okay, that would be right. And then we met last year at OCB later in the year. Okay, that would be it. So this bad boy. And this beer's gone. So this is arguably your flagship. Is that a fair call?
Yeah, I would say.
Yep. And this beer has gone through some iterations since those early days, right?
It's gone through a few. I've brewed this beer now at 4 different breweries, including my own. So it's gotten around. It's been tweaked because as you contract brew at different facilities, you kind of learn the ins and outs of their system, and you maybe have to tweak things. I also made some tweaks just to get it closer to the beer that I kind of wanted it to be. So the latest iteration is this one, and I've lightened it slightly in color and malt character, and just cleaned up the back end a little bit in terms of the hop finish.
Okay. Was it arguably a lot more hazy in the beginning, or was it always kind of like this? I just don't recall.
It had a little more haze to it. It wasn't necessarily intentional. It's just how the batch that very first batch you got is just how that batch got packaged. A little more stuff made it to the can than I expected.
Gotcha.
This batch is definitely clearer than previous iterations of it.
Okay, I love that. I actually just checked Untapped, and it said it was December 2023 when.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So that would have been in there pretty soon after.
Yeah. So I went through the process. Yeah. So I went through the process in 2023 of doing the branding, creating the company, getting the licensing in order to contract, and then I contracted it out of a few breweries. The first one was Midtown Brewing in Prince Edward County. Yeah, and then I did a batch at 5 Paddles, which I've done a few batches with them, and now it's at Common Good. So the last 2 batches of it have been at Common Good.
Okay, are you happy with where it's sitting right now?
This was the best version. The Common Good nailed it. Really nailed it on the first batch, and then mostly the changes I made after that were me just wanting to tweak the recipe a little bit.
Brother, cheers, man. This is great. This is 5.3.
5.3. All Ontario hops. A lot of my products all Ontario hops. Most of my product. This isn't on all Ontario hops anymore. It's all Canadian hops. I've added in El Dorado from Quebec to this
from
this
Lupulin,
batch.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're great. They're great to deal with. They're great people, and their product is good.
This is awesome. Yeah, and they kind of blew up from what I understand through the Glorious and Free. When people started looking around, and then we're like, "Oh shit, these guys do El Dorado."
Yeah, I met them at the Ontario Brewers Conference, and at that point, I'd heard of nobody using them.
Right.
And it was after that when all the tariff stuff started happening, everybody started looking at their options for Canadian hops, and the fact that they somehow got the license to grow El Dorado in Canada is beyond me. Being such a small operation, it's basically the farmer and his sister who does like the sales and stuff. When I met them at OCB, the farmer was walking around with a shirt that said Hop Rub, but it was the Pornhub logo, which I thought was hilarious.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah,
good for that. I met him at the go.
And just out of pure coincidence, we ended up sitting at the same table to eat lunch and just started chatting. And then he's like, "Yeah, I sell hops." And then he brought me over to his thing, and we did the hop rub with the El Dorado. And so you got in early. Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. I heard that. I think Josh might have said it on the pod that basically because of Glorious and Free, they were basically in a pretty bad spot, and they were close to not making it. And the popularity of El Dorado had set them over the line, and also they weren't even going to plant it again. So then they were like, "All right, we'll do it again."
Yeah,
because it really brought them back in.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the licensing fees they were paying for it, right? If they're not selling it like crazy,
then they'd waste the money, right? Yeah,
totally. And he was telling me too that his contract with them, they can cancel his contract at any point, so he can plant entire fields of El Dorado, and then the people that own the patent for it can say, yeah, pull your plants, and they have to destroy their fields, which
that's a rough contract.
It's insane. But
I don't even know how they are allowed to do that. I mean, I guess you can do what you want if someone signs it, but
yeah,
that's a little
because it's a proprietary hop, right? Like it's
It's just like,
And-
why would anyone want to do business with you if you do that?
Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He's like, I don't think they're gonna do it. So
Yeah.
he's like, I felt like it was a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this beer features El Dorado from them, and it features one of my main hop suppliers is Tavistock hops in Tavistock,
Okay.
Ontario, and this has their Chinook, their Centennial, and their Triple Pearl in it.
Nice little spicy little pepper joint in it. This has definitely got a lot of the orange from the El Dorado. Loving it. It's reminding me of something, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's like a lighter version of like Two Hearted or something like that vein.
Yeah.
Even though that's
Yeah.
all Centennial, but you know what I mean. Like this.
Well, this is one of the main hops, and this is Centennial, so it's got a bit of that character to it. The Triple Pearl, I find also on the orange note. The Triple Pearl gives a bit of like, not necessarily orange, but it's like orange rind, like orange
pithy.
Yeah, it gives a little bit of that to it. But yeah, so the differences in this version is lighter, a little bit less malty, just a hair. It's a little bit clearer, and it's got the El Dorado added to it.
I love it. It's super crushable. It's got a light enough, like it's punchy enough in the malt, but to sort of satisfy, but it's also like light enough that it's not like cloying or heavy. And the orange, the bitterness, the pithiness is all like really nicely balanced. It's nothing's really overwhelming. It's not like which I imagine is probably a big thing for you. I don't get the vibe that you're looking to punch people in the taste buds with your shit. Like you're really trying to give a more sort of balanced chill experience.
It's especially with my core beers, right? You want the core beers to be super, especially like we're very neighborhood focused. Right. We're the neighborhood bar. We're like we get craft beer people in that come in that do the on tap stuff. We get that, but most of our customers are like somebody in the neighborhood that just wants a place to come in and have a beer. Gotcha. So we kind of try to keep our core brands nice and approachable, easy, drinkable for general public kind of thing. So yeah, this is kind of our flagship beer. It's this, I would say this and Colonel Bickford are kind of our core, approachable beers that we push people to if they come in and they've never come to us before and they want to know kind of what we do.
I love that. That makes sense. So then, okay, this is a fantastic beer. So this is a flagship, and this one is probably available. This is the one I imagine that you're going to be pushing, also because you're contracting it. You got larger batches.
Yeah, so it's in a few. It's at a few licensees. Beast Pizza carries it. Bossa Nova and Roncesvalles. There's a few other bars and stuff that carry it occasionally when they have room in their rotation.
Barton Salameria out here, Shasta Justin, had it as well. And then and then once it kicked it replaced it with our collab with Tooth and Nail, which is very cool.
And he's told me that he plans to get something from me and again when he has an opening. But
beautiful.
But yeah, they had a keg of it.
That's sick. I love it, man. This is a great beer. So this is nice to try a different iteration of it too. So I was looking forward to this one because you were telling me about this the other day, and this is fantastic. This is like money, like Westy or American style pale ale. It's beautiful. It's kind of like it's not the like old school Westy like amber. It's kind of more that, but it's also not. It's like in the nice middle ground. It's not that like rip your tongue off amber type of one, but it's also not the using New Zealand hops type of thing in the new school version. It's kind of like this nice American IPA kind of middle ground. So
the initial version of it was a little bit more amber in color. It was a little bit more bitterness. And I
neither
feel
of those things are bad.
They're not, but I feel like I brought it into a good place where it's like you said, it's in between. Because when you give somebody a beer that's that amber these days and call it a pale ale, people are like, what are you talking about? But it's like, yeah, that's what a pale ale used to be.
It's very true.
So we kind of wanted to put it in, like you said, the middle zone where it's like it's not like a modern West Coast pale ale thing with like the newer hops. It's not like a hazy pale ale. It's like an old school kind of pale ale, but a little bit modernized, not quite as dark, not quite as bitter.
I like it, man. It's great. I can see why you made this a flagship. So this is brilliant. So coming back to 2023.
Yeah, so I started contracting. I released this beer. I had it in a few bars and stuff. I've been working on, listing in the LCBO, and that's a whole process.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I was working on that, and then in the meantime, we were looking at spaces. My wife and I were just keeping an eye on spaces that came available, and every time I'd find a space that looked to me like I could do something like what I wanted to do, I'd show it to her, and she'd say, "Yeah, it's too far away." So like something, if it was farther away than like a 5-10 minute walk from our house, she was like, "That's too far away."
Okay.
So
Was that just because of having kids and just going through
I
is that
think so.
easier?
I'll mention that while I was home brewing and we moved into this house in this neighborhood, my wife grew up in, I branded my home brewing as Bickford Brewing Company, and Bickford is the neighborhood we're in is Bickford Park. So there's the Bickford Park right by us. So that was part of it too, because it's like you've named the brand Bickford Brewing. How are you going to put the brewery not in the Bickford Park neighborhood? And the Bickford Park neighborhood is a micro neighborhood. It's very, very small. It's
Right.
from Ossington to Clinton, from Bloor to College. So it's basically a block.
Gotcha.
It's like
a block squared.
it's like a couple blocks. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like not very big at all.
Okay. That makes complete sense then. That's actually
Yeah.
a much more like, not that there's anything wrong with not wanting to stay close to home, but also that
Yeah.
makes so much sense. It
And
would have been weird if you were somewhere else.
yeah, and that's and she would remind me that and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But the issue with calling your brewery Bickford Park or Bickford Brewing and then wanting to have it in Bickford Park is there's very little commercial space come available in Bickford Park. So
Big time.
we're kind of keeping an eye on it. And then there's this right at the end of the alley that goes behind our house. There's a laundromat that's been there since the 50s. And suddenly it's empty and windows are papered, construction is happening. And I'm like, what is going on there? A sign goes up for lease. I call him. He asks me what I want to do with it. I told him. And he said, well, I need to redo the floors. So I'll think about it and get back to you. And I didn't hear from him for like 8 months or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then sign goes back in and I reach out to him and say, hey, I want to do this thing. And he's like, oh yeah, cool. Like, let's meet. And so I met him and, we saw the space, and it's not at all an ideal space to build a brewery in a lot of ways, right. But it's at the end of our alley. It kind of suits what I wanted to do, which is very small brewery. Basically I built myself a very expensive, large home brewery,
right,
with seats for people to drink beer in. So yeah, it ended up working out. It's like, I'm glad we did it right in the neighborhood. I'm glad I'm so close to home. Like, it's so convenient. I wish I had more storage. I wish I had a walk-in fridge. Our beer kegs and cases and stuff are stored in a variety of like freezers and fridges, like homebrew style, like freezers with temp controllers on them.
Okay.
And our keg fridge is upstairs. It's literally the bar that we pour out of. It's a giant kegerator. And so we have to haul like 30-liter kegs up and down the stairs on a regular basis. So it's not ideal, but we make it work.
You make it work, and it's like a real cozy spot. So it's like you've turned you've turned like a challenge, I guess, like a logistical challenge into like, it feels like the neighborhood bar. Like the people who were walking in when we were there I wouldn't have pegged a lot of them as beer nerds as such.
And most of them are not. Most of them are neighborhood people. We allow dogs, and we have the dog park just down the street. So we get regulars that come in like on a regular basis, just walking their dog. They stop in, they have a pint, they grab a few cans to go home, and that's the core of our business. Is like we're the neighborhood bar, and it's like we just happen to make the beer on site.
I think that's like one of the key setups of breweries that are going to thrive in the future. Something that kind of comes up a lot. Obviously, beer's in a weird place right now, and one of the things that comes up is what are the models that is going to thrive, or probably not even looking for thriving. What's going to work in future? And the common answer is this model, the neighborhood bar.
One of the things that works about it is you're small, your rent is low, your staffing is low, you're selling most of your product at the highest profit avenues. So you're selling most of your product over over your own taps. You're selling most of your product in cans out of your own bottle shop. You're selling a little bit to other bars and restaurants, but it's like you get into the bigger breweries and you're having to move a lot of volume through like the LCBO where the margins are super thin. You're having to move a lot of beer to a lot of licensees where the margins are, a little bit thicker, but not quite what you get on your own taps. So by being small, you can kind of keep most of the beer you make. Now, granted, you're making beer in the most labor intensive way possible in terms of the volume, but I mean, I don't have to pay a brewer, so.
And it's all pretty close. It's all pretty. I mean, we did the brew day. It's all pretty easy as far as like maybe it's labor intensive as far as the cleaning and but like it was pretty even. Like because you were like, do the fucking the what's it called, the graining out, like taking the grain out of the thing. And it was like I did it. I couldn't believe how quick we were just talking. And it's just like a scoop. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna probably get halfway through, and you'd be like, all right, I'll take over. And then by the time I knew it, it was just at the bottom.
It goes pretty quick. It's a small mash tun. But sorry, when I say labor intensive, I mean the amount of hours to brew based on the literage of beer, right?
It doesn't change,
because it's like my brew day is shorter than at a bigger brewery, but not by a lot. And at a bigger brewery, they're brew it like at one of my contract partners, they're literally brewing like more than 10 times my batch size. Like,
right. But
so it's like
the same hours, give or take.
It's a little bit, there's a couple parts of the process that take that scale that take longer, but most of it does not. Most of it is the same amount of time. So,
jeez, I hadn't thought of it like that. But I guess that's a downside. But I guess like you were explaining earlier, on the pro side, it allows you to pump out beers that are always fresh. There's new stuff more often without having to worry about selling through, because it'll always sell through.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of upsides.
I end up on my typical batch. I end up with like 10 cases in like 3 or 4 30-liter kegs. So depending on the style of beer.
Right.
So it's not a lot of beer.
Not a lot, but it's enough to sort of almost drive a bit of interest. So if people see you post something on Instagram with a new beer, and they're like, oh shit, like I know, like that people know that they have to get down to try that beer. Because
that's the thing. Yeah, totally. And we have beers that we kind of don't aim to always have on tap. They kind of come and go. And one example is our coffee blonde ale. And it's just a split batch I do with my blonde ale, and I just take a little bit of extra wort, and I'll get like 2 or 3 20-liter kegs out of it. And so people that love it, when it goes on tap, they come out. Whereas if they knew they could always get it, they may not come out as much for it, right? Because it's just like, oh, I can go whenever and get that beer. But when they see me post about it, they're like, I'm coming down to get some of that beer.
I like that. I think that's kind of that's back to that like fun time of beer where people were lining up for stuff, and there was like a bit more excitement behind releases. So it's cool to know that people will get amped over and it's not even technically a new beer. It's the same beer it's brewing, but it's a beer that they had like 3 months ago, right? Like 2 months ago. But it's like we haven't had it on tap for that 2 months or whatever. So once it's back there, and they were bugging me to can it, so I canned a little bit of it. I think I got like 3 cases of it, and it like sold in like a week. Damn.
So
it's okay. So you're able to still generate demand for beers that aren't brand spanking new, which is not the most common thing in beer. I like that method though of bringing things back. I've seen a few breweries do that. It's not the most common thing in the world, but I feel like it's just like a really cool like cadence. Whereas like maybe there's some things that come out at a certain time of year. Maybe there's some things that every like once a quarter they're brewed or something like that. So it's
Yeah.
sort of like it's around, but it's not always around. So like there's a bit of a lull to then drive that interest again.
And for me, that particular beer is part of my split batch series, which is where I take an existing beer I'm brewing and I just take some of the wort from it into a different, smaller fermenter, and I do something different in the fermenter. So for me, it's not even planned when it comes back. It's just like, oh, I'm brewing Colonel Bickford, I'm brewing the Blonde Ale, and I could do with like I could get by with a little bit less volume on my blonde ale, so I'll shove that over into the other fermenter and take the coffee ale, because like maybe I'm doing the brew because I want more cans, but it's like I have enough kegs, I don't need to get a full 430 liters of kegs, so maybe I'll just take 230 liters of kegs and I can kind of put the rest in this other fermenter and make the coffee blonde. So it just all depends on like other factors, and do I have a tap available for it, right?
And
So
yeah, that's true. And what else is on the schedule? What else you got coming out?
yeah, so it's just gonna kind of pop up here and there just based on a bunch of different circumstances. And I haven't done a lot of other beers in that series, but I do have some planned. Like I plan on doing things like taking my English bitter and doing it with like tea or something like that. Just like different things you can add in the fermenter to make two beers out of one.
Gotcha.
Which is
That's
something
pretty sick.
I did a lot of that home brewing for competition. Like my Goses, I would brew one batch and I would do multiple little fermenters and I would dry hop it and I would add fruit and I would end up with 3 beers for competition out of one brew day.
Right. And did you ever have a time when like more than one did like a few of those had won anything or medaled at all?
Oh, I've that was the Goses
That
were
was
my
them?
biggest medal winners. And it was
Interesting.
very common. I would win in all 3 categories at the same competition with the same brew day, just with different things in the
With slight
fermenter. So
tweaks. Fuck.
yeah.
Okay. Was that just like I don't know, luck that you ended up just being specifically like the Gozas end up being particularly good, or was it like something you worked on? Or
I mean, I've tweaked it along the way, but it just the very first batch of the fruited Gose won a medal. So, and
right.
that was a beer. Like at the time, I wasn't really into sour beers. I was into some sour beers, but I wasn't really into Goses. But my wife was, so I was like, let me brew a beer for you. She really liked raspberry Gose, so I was like, let me brew a beer for you. So I made raspberry Gose, and it ended up getting me. I think it was my first gold medal. I think I won a bronze previously, and then that one got me a gold medal. And so
Damn.
I just tweaked my process on that, and for the rest of that was my moneymaker for the rest of the competition season. Like
Just enter that bad boy everywhere.
yeah, and I I'd win with other beers too. I'd win with my English bitter, or I'd win with my porter, but that was the one that like I would enter that, and I knew I was at least gonna, with the 3 entries, I knew I was gonna at least get one medal from those 3, and I always did with all the competitions. At least one of them is gonna medal.
Interesting. That's pretty sick. And that explains why, because I had that raspberry Gose when I came by the other week, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is fucking great. And I think I said to you, I don't drink Goses often, and I found that it's like, oh, maybe I didn't say that to you. We had Noctem from Quebec City on the pod recently, and they sent a Gose, and I was like, I haven't had a Gose in fucking ages. And then maybe a couple weeks after that, then I was down to your place and had it there, and I was like, I just feel like I haven't seen them around. They seem to be common in Quebec from memory, and they aren't super common out here. So
They're
it was
not.
like, oh, they're not really, right? I'm not tripping
There
out?
there was a period like 5 years ago when sours were like huge.
Okay.
Like I want to say 5 years ago. It might have been 6 or 7 years ago. Man, I'm getting old. It
Ain't we all?
it
Yes.
There was a period where sours and fruited sours were like huge, and like everybody was doing them, and there were quite a few places doing Gose at the time. But I feel like that I feel like the mainstream sour boom kind of diminished, and the hazy IPAs really kind of took over.
That would have been maybe
Yeah.
2017 even.
Yeah, it was quite a while back that the sours were
pre
like huge.
smoothies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah,
why? Because
totally.
smoothies fucked up the game for all the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
sours.
Yeah, no, this was way pre smoothies. This was like regular sour fruited
Regular
beers.
smell 16, 17 would be my guess,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
which would probably make sense. But okay, so that's super sick. Why are we talking about the Goses again?
Well, just talking
see
about
what-
the competitions,
the
the entering
competitions.
the competitions and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, so we found, we're back to the original story. We found the location, and we went through the process of all the licensing and stuff, and we opened in September of 2024.
Okay.
So
it's not even a year.
We've got a big anniversary thing planned for September this year. We've got collabs with a bunch of people. We're doing a collab with Flora Hall.
Nice.
We're doing we're doing a collab thing with Rorschach.
Hell yeah.
And we're doing I'm doing a collab with one of the things that I've been involved in is like the Instagram, the beer Instagram community and stuff. Like I did a collab with Shelby, her Hoppy Life.
Yes.
She's lovely. Yeah, she was great. And we did and it was a very popular beer. We'll probably do it again this winter. It was a dark sour with raspberry.
Nice.
And so we'll probably do it again this year. This year I think I want to add some cocoa nibs into it. Make it like push we got some chocolate from the grain, and I just kind of want to bump that up and make the beer more intensely like a chocolate covered raspberry kind of thing.
That's fine.
But yeah, so I was getting involved. I've gotten involved with the beer Instagram community, and when I went to the CBAs, I ended up hanging out with there were four beer Instagrammers that got invited to come out to the CBAs from Ontario, and it's Tea, Mommy Drinks Craft Beer,
April,
Hop Happy, and Ernesto Pierce Mug.
Yes.
So we ended up hanging out in Vancouver. So we decided we're going to brew a beer for the anniversary. We're going to brew a Vancouver Cream Ale, which is actually a dark mild, which was one of the weird things we learned at the CBAs. They did a talk. There was a Noelle Phillips, I think. Noelle, she did a talk on the history of craft beer in BC. And one of the weird things one of the things I found really odd is there was a brewery that released a dark mild, and people at the time weren't really into English beers anymore. They didn't really want dark beers. So they rebranded it as a cream ale, and they just called it a cream ale, but it was a dark mild.
And that BC cream ale is
and that has continued. You go to Vancouver, and there are multiple breweries that have a beer marketed as a cream ale that is a dark mild.
Interesting. And unless like you could order a cream ale thinking you're going to get a clear type of thing.
I looked at the Untapped for some of those beers, and people are like, "This is the weirdest cream ale I've ever had." Like, why is this cream ale so dark?
That's hilarious.
So yeah, so we're gonna do a dark mild.
That's
we're gonna call it a cream ale for fun.
Yeah, fuck yeah, why not? That's a good tie-in. Are you doing finish on that.
So yeah, that's all for our September anniversary kind of.
Do you know the dates that you could like promote it now? So people know
September 13th is going to be the main kind of day for the thing, but I think we'll kind of have stuff happening on the 12th as well. The 12th is the Friday, the 13th is the Saturday, but the main stuff's going to be on the Saturday. And we're gonna have a cookie called Quest is going to be there. He's going to do another round of cookies made with our beer.
Amazing. Shasta Kamal, he's the best.
He's so good. He's so good. So yeah, I think he's going to do cookies with the beers that we're specifically releasing for the event. The other beer we're doing, actually, we're doing some kind of IPA. I haven't fully nailed it down. It might be like a micro IPA, like a 3% hazy kind of vibe, for the Ales for ALS. So it's an ALS fundraiser thing. So
nice.
That's going to be released at the anniversary.
Hell yeah, man. So you got a few new beers coming. It'd be like a bit of excitement around it, some food pop-ups and stuff.
Totally, yeah.
That's sick, man.
I'm really excited about the beer we're doing with Flora Hall. We're gonna do like a traditional English IPA.
Nice.
Wow,
Wow,
and
they
we're
didn't see that much.
yeah, and you know, I've heard from everybody. I've had a couple Flora Hall beers. I had the Flora Hall collab that you guys did, the dark mild, and that was awesome.
Fantastic.
I've heard their English bitter is great. So a lot of people I've talked to have told me they do English styles well.
It's true.
So we were talking about what beer to do, and I'm like, let's do an English IPA because I've been meaning to do one for a while. So
honestly,
yeah,
that's great choice.
Yeah,
they really nailed that. I like that.
Yeah, so and we're going to use a combination of like, you know, the traditional English hops and my Ontario hops that I typically use in Ontario in like English styles. So it'll be kind of like a little mix there. Awesome. And I think we're going to be serving that on cask at the anniversary event. So,
are they coming down for it? Are they going to come down and do the brew day?
Well, the brew day is going to be at their place, so I'm going up for the brew day.
Sick.
So
they
have a bigger system than me, so.
Yeah, probably just a little.
Yeah,
that's sick, man. Honestly, it's a great look. That's really fun. I feel like that'd be perfect. That's great, man. It's a great way to celebrate that in September. It's kind of a nice time too. So it's like just slightly off peak, which is optimal, I guess, and also still warm.
So, and hopefully so we opened in September. Construction on our road began in October. and it hasn't stopped yet.
It's pretty wild. They were looking close though. It was looking close.
It's supposed to be done by September, so hopefully we'll have a fresh road, brand new bike lanes. You know,
maybe some actual parking on the street. Even though parking's been, honestly, I coming peak summer there, I've had no problems getting to park every time I've been.
Typically parking on the side streets around there tends to be doable. It tends to not be a problem.
It was totally fine.
Yeah.
Actually, they probably wouldn't even, because it's so narrow, there probably isn't even street parking, is there?
Not in front of us. There is on Harvard on either sides of us.
Gotcha.
A little bit down on each end. There is a little bit of parking. So but not in front of us.
Okay. Then side streets are the move anyway. Okay.
Yeah. So the side streets on either side of us tend to be able to find a spot somewhere. You might have to do the old loop around the neighborhood to find where the spot is, but
part of the fun.
Yeah.
Get some steps in. I love it. So do you want to hit that next beer? Then we'll keep going with the construction story. This is great, man. This is fantastic. So definitely people, if you this is the Bickford beer that I feel like people could like request this, you know, their favorite local store or something to get it. Their favorite bar, because that's the one that you can actually like consistently supply.
Yeah, and maybe soon in the LCBO. Maybe.
That'd be the one to get in there, man. Like the West. I don't feel like enough. I feel like there's really room for like West Coast pale ales or American style pale ales.
There's not a lot of them because most pale ales that are readily available in the LCBO these days are hazies, right? Because everything's gone that way. They're
haze.
So, and I feel like we're hitting a point. Like I love hazies, but I think we're hitting a point where people are kind of wanting like the older style IPA back. To a degree, like when we do like a West Coast IPA, it's like it sells, like people want it. So I feel like those are kind of coming back, and I feel like this is, like you said, this is the beer to get in the LCBO because like there's room for it. They don't have a lot of beers that can kind of compete with it in that style.
ABV.
No,
it's kind of perfect for that. So with that, what do you feel like we should do, man?
So I think we go to Colonel Bickford, which is kind of our other core beer. It's our American blonde ale.
Perfect. That is this bad boy right here. Beautiful. Boom. There she is. He is, sorry. Look at that. Shouts to the Colonel right there, mate.
And this is Colonel Bickford's Premium Ontario Ale, which is our longest name for a beer.
You gotta make me type all that out. I don't mind. It's okay. Now, this one is this brewed in-house, or is this one?
Yeah, this one's brewed in-house. This is actually the first beer that we brewed on our system.
Nice. And why did you choose to do a blonde ale?
So this beer kind of came out of not really being able to lager or not feeling confident that I could lager on the system at the brewery. So
Gotcha.
the base beer that my homebrew recipe that this was based on was a Munich Helles.
Okay.
And so I swapped the hops for Ontario hops, and I fermented it, on the cooler end with an ale yeast. So it's not I'm not claiming it's a lager, but often we get people that ask for a lager, and what they mean is they want something that's clean and light and like light colored and not a lot of hop flavor. And this is kind of what we push them to.
Gotcha. As opposed to something like I guess the Patio Crush is kind of like not even really a fair comparison because
it's kind of a different thing. Yeah. But it's either when they say lager, we kind of try to figure out, do they mean like, because we have a German Pilsner as well that we contract brew with Common Good. So when they ask for a lager, it's a question is like, well, do you want something like crisp and bitter, or do you want something that's less bitter, less hoppy, just easy drinking and pale? And then this is what we'll push them to if that's the case.
Gotcha. No, that makes more sense for this one. Well, first of all, cheers, man. I like it's calling it an Ontario ale too.
Yeah, premium Ontario ale. Yeah. It's all Ontario. It's all Ontario hops. It's all Canadian malt. I'm working on getting it all Ontario malt. I did one batch that was with Mississippi Mills malt, and I'm working on making that part of my regular supply chain. There's just logistic issues with, for such a small brewery, getting the quantities I can take on a regular basis from them because they're kind of a small company. So
right.
Yeah, they're not like
hard to just get a couple bags here and there type shit.
Totally. But when I ordered bags, it was literally like the owner drove them down in his pickup truck from like the Ottawa area. Like, wow. So
it's real, that personalized service there.
Yeah. And that's what I like with my, my local suppliers is like I said, the hop supplier in Quebec is like a brother and sister. It's like a 2-person company. My hop supplier in Ontario, it's like a family operation. It's
right. So everything's tight, small.
I like when I'm not dealing with like a huge corporate multinational corporation. I like dealing with when I talk to my sales guy at the hop supplier in Ontario, I'm talking to like the brother of the farmer, kind of thing. So it's like,
it makes more sense to do that way, and because you've got more of a connection to it, they can answer all the questions.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
they're not just trying to sell you some shit. And usually those people don't like, they're less nonsense and they're less bullshit.
Totally,
no, you don't need that. You need to get this thing. They're not trying to like upsell you always. Or
I only get great service from any of those companies so I like to give my business to them anywhere I can. So like in my typical beer lineup, I have 2 beers where the hops aren't Canadian, and that's the hazy IPA. Although I'm flirting with trying an all Canadian hazy IPA. It's tricky on the hop side.
The only thing you could really do is the El Dorado.
That the El Dorado would be a key feature in that beer if I did the Canadian.
Yeah.
The triple pearl you can do decent in a hazy IPA if it's not the main hop. If it's not the main hop, if it's like an under hop. I also get Ontario Racao, which can do all right. Yeah, it's they can't call it Racao because it's
licensed, or is it
because Racao is like a brand name that it needs to be like only the company that in New Zealand can call it that.
Okay.
But they call it Alpha Aroma, which was the original name of that hop.
Is that the Duke 25? Is that through them?
No, it's from Tavistock. A few places grow Alpha Aroma. And obviously it's grown in Ontario. It's different. Like all the, there are terroir differences, but you do get some fruitiness from it. You do get.
Oh, I see it right here on their website. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So hybrid, smooth cone hybrid from New Zealand. Okay. So I guess it is still wow, the aromas of stone fruit, red licorice, and grassy. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it hit this? I guess that's pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah. So I've used that. I use that in my dry hopped Gose. Um,
Interesting.
I haven't tried it in a hazy yet, but I'm sure if you lean heavily on the El Dorado, throw some other Ricao in and throw a little bit of the triple pearl in, I think you could come up with something.
I'm looking at the thing here. The description of Triple Pearl is tropical citrus notes desired to create those juicy New England IPA. That's so interesting to me because I remember, I believe they unfortunately closed down, but there was I was friends with the owner. They were called Houblon Bastien in well, it's in Terrebonne, just outside of Montreal. So he used to just really he had sick branding, and he was always like, you know, it's his father's farm, and he's running it and all this stuff. So one of their big crops was triple pearl, and I remember the number one note was just like pepper spice, like pepper.
It's got a hint of that to it, but
Okay,
I find the Ontario the stuff. It's kind of like a little bit of tropical fruit. It's I get some orange rind from it. I sometimes feel like I get a little bit of melon from it, but there's a little bit of a pepper note as well.
right. Which
Um,
I don't know. I just don't. That's my one thing. I don't know. But like you said, maybe if you keep it in like a lower percentage of the hops, and perhaps
I feel like just to add a little depth so that it's not all El Dorado. I mean,
there's also that.
I'm sure
Eldorado's not
all
even.
El Dorado would be good, but
I'm sure it'd be pretty cool. It's still like I guess maybe because in my head I'm just being a bitch because I'm like, oh, like you want the kiwi hops, right? You want those punchy, big tropical notes. When I think of New England IPAs, that's what I'm
yeah,
predominantly looking for.
or you want like the citras or the mosaics. You want the
Sure.
something
Eh,
that has some punch to it. And I feel like El Dorado has a bit of that, but it's not quite on that level. And El
no,
Dorado is a classic supporting hop. Like you pair El Dorado with like a Citra or like a Simcoe or something,
totally.
and you have something going on. So that's what's kind of kept me from doing it, from doing the all Canadian hazy IPA. But
It's worth a try, I
and I
guess,
know
right? Like,
I haven't tried many of the glorious and free collabs, but I understand that beer the definitions are kind of loose and they can kind of play with it, and some lean a little bit more hazy side, some lean a little bit West Coast side, but the hops we have supply to definitely lean more West Coast side.
yep.
Like like if you're going Canadian hops, it's like you can make a great West Coast IPA with Canadian hops.
Oh
Um,
my god, yes. Oh, no question.
because you have there's no shortage of supply of like Centennial, Cascade, Chinook,
All of
like
that killer
so.
from so many different farms. Yeah, we had Four Origins from Montreal. They were the only one in Quebec to do it. And so it was named like whatever, I forgot what it is, the French translation, but they just translated glorious and free into French. And it was fantastic. And it was all
Yeah,
Quebec hops. They do the same thing. They do the old
yeah,
Quebec stuff. They're really big on it too. So it worked out beautifully. So I feel like it's very doable, even if it's not all Ontario hops that you do. If it's all Canadian,
yeah.
that opens up a bit of stuff. But yeah, that's the one thing I really wish. Honestly, that would change the game if Canada was able to grow some tropical ass hops. I feel
Yeah.
like that would change, and I don't know if that's even possible with the terroir at all.
There's two sides to that.
Okay,
There's two roadblocks to being able to do that.
okay,
And one is
proprietary
the
side.
proprietary, yeah, right, because hop breeding works just like pharmaceutical, right? Like whoever breeds a hop has a certain number of years of exclusivity where nobody else can grow that hop.
Makes sense because it
With
might take them
with
10 years to make the shit.
that's the thing the idea is it's how they get their money back for putting the money into the R&D to create the hop is
Mm,
they get to be the only ones to make money off of it for a certain period of time.
totally.
um, so that's the deal is the reason we have the Centennials, the Cascades, the Chinooks and all that is because those are the old craft beer hops. Those have been around for long enough that they don't have proprietary anymore, so
Mm,
anybody can get a hop rhizome of Cascade and grow it and sell it commercially. But
right.
most of the modern juicy hazy tropical hops, you can't do that. The other impediment is like you said, the terroir. Like if you plant those New Zealand hops in Ontario, what are you going to get? Because it's not going to be the same.
No, as like I mean, as you were just explaining with this, the alpha, what was it called?
Alpha
Alpha aroma.
aroma.
Like there's only so much you can do, because I guess it's terroir is everything. It's weather, it's
Totally, yeah.
growing season, it's the actual soil itself. I mean, you could probably, I don't even know if you could get the mineral makeup of a New Zealand soil where they grow
No,
a cow.
probably not. Yeah.
It's even if you could you replicate it in any sort of meaningful way? So it's sort of like, and I know that Sasquatch is like, I believe, the first real Canadian hop, like all like bred
It's
here.
it's the first Canadian hop that was developed in Canada.
Okay, and is that a contender for haze? I don't think so, but
I don't think so. Like, I've used this Sasquatch a couple times as a home brewer.
okay.
It's in our collab with Steadfast, which is an all Canadian hazy pale ale.
Okay.
And that has Eldorado, Triple Pearl, and Sasquatch.
How was that?
It was good. It came out good. Steadfast, they make, I don't know if you've ever chatted with the Steadfast folks. They
need to get them on.
They make great beers. They make really good, like, West Coast kind of styles.
Okay.
Their West Coast pale ale is really good. They've got an amber ale that's kind of like the West Coast, like bitter, like an amber ale with some bitterness to it. They make some great beers. But yeah, so we did this collab with them, and we use Sasquatch. I haven't used it at my brewery, but I used it as a home brewer. And my kind of take on Sasquatch, it's kind of a cross between EKG and Cascade. So you get a little bit.
What'd you say? EKG?
EKG, English Kent Goldie, like the classic English hop.
Yeah.
Right. So you get that kind of earthy floral kind of thing from it. But with the Sasquatch, you also get a bit more of that grapefruit citrus from it, but it's not like punch you in the face. It's just like a little bit of that.
Interesting. So it's sort of, it sounds like if you get a little bit of the grapefruit citrus, maybe it'd be a nice supporter to the Eldorado.
It could be, yeah. And like I said, we used it with Eldorado in the hazy pale ale, and it came out good. But it was like we were using Sasquatch as the first wort hop, and a little bit in the whirlpool, and some in the dry hop, and then the Eldorado kind of became the star in the whirlpool and in the dry hop. It was kind of the main hop there. So it came off great. It's, it doesn't drink like a hazy pale ale that's made with those big juicy punchy hops, but people like it. It still drinks like a hazy pale ale. So at some point I'll do the hazy IPA, all Canadian hops, and give it a shot.
Worth a try.
But for now, the hazy IPA is one of my beers that has US hops in it. It's the only beer that has US hops in it. Okay. Other than the odd one off, like our California Common, the homebrew, I did that on the GTA Brews tap, and he wanted to stay classical and use like US Northern Brewer, which is what would have been used in like Anchor Steam beer, which was what that beer is based on. So we use that. So other than that, I don't really use US hops. And then the Pilsner uses like European hops. So yeah, it uses Saaz primarily. So, but pretty much everything else on my tap is mostly Ontario. And then in the case of like when I use the Eldorado, it's still all Canadian.
Is there a reason that you're mostly focused on that, on using all Canadian ingredients?
I mean, I like it. I like dealing with the small suppliers. I like, I was using all Canadian ingredients before all this tariff business. So
right. So it just feels like natural to you.
It's just, I felt like that was one of the things early on when I created the brand and I did the contract beer was that'll be my thing, is I'll focus on using Canadian ingredients. Basically, the idea is use as local as possible in terms of my ingredients.
Gotcha.
Like if someone opened a hop farm in Bickford Park, I would probably throw their hops in my beer.
Right. Okay. I mean, look, I love that, and I only ask. I think it's dope, and I feel like it's coming up more and more and more in this year more than ever. Arguably in response to the tariff situation,
Yeah.
but you've been obviously, like, as you said, been doing it beforehand. But it's and then you've got like the Canadian Pilsner project from True History, and you got Glorious and Free and all this stuff. So it's something that hadn't traditionally spoken about a ton, just because it didn't really come up as often. And now I feel like this year is arguably the theme of the year.
Yeah,
Is
totally.
just keeping it local, you know.
And I get a lot of locals ask me how the tariffs are affecting me, and I'm like, cans are a little more expensive.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah,
So,
which is not so bad, because I mean we've got all the malt up here, so like that's
there's
not all, but a lot.
There's no shortage of malt options in Canada. So in terms of malt, I use all my base malt is Canadian. I use some non-Canadian specialty malts in cases where there's certain things. We don't have a lot of maltsters in Canada that do like roasted malts or like caramel malts or stuff like that. So I use, but when I need that stuff, I reach towards like UK maltsters and European maltsters over American. And mostly I was doing that before the tariffs, just because I think the product tastes better. Like I like UK crystal malt over US. I think it has more flavor to it. It has more character to it. So
right, that makes sense. I like that. I like that you got like good there's like a personal reason for it, but also like a product reason. Like the end product.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think the product benefited. Like they said, the only exception is the hazy IPA. It's kind of, I mean, what I should do is when I do, I should reach for those New Zealand hops, because I haven't really used them a lot in home brewing or pro brewing, and I feel like that's a good option to reach for the hazy IPA to keep it away from being American.
That's kind of what I was thinking, that for that exactly that like the folks who don't want to pay the tariffs for, if they haven't already got contracts in place with say YCH or whatever to get the American hops, that you're pretty sweet with Kiwi hops. But the problem that seems to come up, because obviously this is a rather large conversation on a platform like this, we talk about it a lot, is that like, all right, so say people's contracts start tapping out end of next year or whatever the fuck, because usually your contract a year or two out, and someone like Yakima Chief have the warehouse in Quebec where they've moved a lot of the stuff over. Like when the tariffs start talking, they're like, let's get our Canadian stock over before this shit kicks in, so that the Canadians, because you don't get it all at once, you get it when you need it, but you already kind of pre-arrange the price. But if Yakima Chief have to send it over, like even over and above, then that extra tariff is going to kick in. So that's like, who wears the tariff? Then it was like, all right, my immediate thought was like, okay, we'll just go to New Zealand, get all the punchy hops from there. There's nothing you can't do with any of the New Zealand hops. Like, you're totally fine. But then someone was like, I can't remember, I was talking to someone about it, and they were like, well, once that happens and people's if the tariff things does continue, if it doesn't get wiped out and people's American contracts are finished, so there's going to be more people looking for options, and the only other place in the world really to get some sort of equivalent would be New Zealand. A little bit Australia, because Galaxy's back up there now, because Galaxy sucks for a bit, as you imagine know. It was amazing, and then it just fucking ate us, and then now it's back. And the other Aussie hops are cool, but it's I didn't even think Australian hops were ever as good as what the New Zealand hops are, especially in the breadth of them.
I don't know if I could name an Australian hop other than Galaxy.
Vic Secret, Ella, Enigma, Topaz.
I thought Vic Secret might be, but some of them I'm like, is that Australian or New Zealand?
It's a good point.
I was pretty sure Vic Secret was
because Victoria is where I'm from, and so Victoria,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, and I've used that one. I've used that one before. I've never used Enigma, but yeah, they're fine. They just sort of not really. I mean, look, because Galaxy came back, it's very probable that the others may as well, right? I've used Galaxy before, but not in a while. My understanding is for a while there, it was just a lot of like, it gave a lot of like hop burn and like just like unpleasantness, right? Yeah,
big time. So I heard from the Haze guys like Troy at Badlands and Bebo and them at Third Moon that like Galaxy is like back now.
Oh, okay.
It's back where it was like I think they do the hop rubs either at like the CBC in America or something like that. They do that shit. Although they'll send it out sometimes they send it like New Zealand, what's it called, freestyle hops or whatever. They send it to the breweries to do the rubs, the ones who have the
Okay.
large contract, and they'll just do it at home and they'll be like, cool. They get small batches, right? So I think the Aussie ones had people out, and then they were like, oh shit, this is fucking slapping right now. And they rebranded everything, so Galaxy has a brand on the bags. And stuff. It's cute. I like it.
So, and here's where I have a problem when we get into these very popular hops, especially like you said, if all these companies with Canadian breweries with contracts for US hops, when those contracts run out and they start contracts from New Zealand, I'm nowhere near big enough to contract buy hops. Right. Nowhere near. So I spot buy hops, which means I'm buying whatever is available after the contract. So exactly. So it's like the hops available to me are nowhere near the varieties that are available to the big breweries that can contract buy. So
that makes sense.
Because for me, a 5 kilo bag of hops is multiple batches.
Right. Where some people, that's barely a dry hop or whatever.
Totally. Like a lot of places, it's like when I do my batches at Common Good of my Dog Park Pale Ale, the dry hop is 3 5 kilo bags. And that's not even a heavily dry hopped beer.
Right. That's kind of light. Okay.
Yeah. So
I guess you could also. So yes, I definitely understand. You're in a position where you probably can't be as picky about it. You could tap.
And that's where the Ontario hops are great, because it's like it's a small supplier. I can call them and be like, hey, can I get a bag of this, bag of that, bag of this? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And they ship them to me. And I, people often ask me if I go with Ontario hops because they're cheaper, and they are not. They are not. I
was going to say, I would never have even thought that for a second. No. It's arguably going to be more expensive because it's hyper local and small batch.
That's the thing, is I pay for an Ontario like Centennial or like an Ontario Triple Pearl. I pay close to what you would pay for like a more premium hop from the States, like a Citra or something, right? So,
gotcha.
Whereas I could get like a Centennial from the States for like a lot less money.
Gotcha.
So,
but yeah, it's not a sexy hop type thing.
Yeah, totally. But I do it because it's a product I stand behind. I like dealing with the local companies. I like the fact that the money I pay for the hops is going to feed a family instead of to like a huge corporation, kind of thing. But I do have a company that I can spot buy New Zealand hops from here and there. I'm using some Motueka in Saison. I'm doing next week with a home brewer from GTA Brews. So,
which is awesome because you're still working with them. That's almost like a good quick segue to maybe touch on that, and then
So when I came up homebrewing, when I started, there was People's Pint. I don't know if you're familiar, if you remember.
Oh yeah, I know Pete, and we had him on the pod.
Yeah. So
my friend Scott he was my co-host at the time, and he did a line of lactose on the podcast. Like they had lactose, and he fucking ripped a line of it like a psycho.
Oh wow,
I forgot about that. But yes, I know those guys.
So People's Pint, one of the things that they did when they opened is they had a GTA Brews tap. And so what they did was GTA Brews, like home brewers, could submit for the homebrew tap and say, hey, I want to brew on the homebrew tap. This is the beer I want to do. And they would kind of curate it and hook you up with Pete at People's Pint. And your spot would come up in the queue, and Pete would say, yeah, I'm cool to do the beer that you want to do. And he would just do like a couple kegs worth on like his little homebrew system.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. And they would do like a release event, and basically it's the kind of thing. They would do a couple kegs. It would sell out in like a week or two. It would sell out fairly quick with the homebrewers. So People's Pint closed a couple years ago now. So when I opened, I reached out to the GTA Brewers and I was like, hey, I want to resurrect the GTA Brewers tap. I want to have homebrewers in and brew on my system, and we'll release it. So we've only done 3, I think now. We kind of fit it in when we have room in the schedule, when we have tap space open. But but yeah, we did a red IPA. We did a continuously hopped IPA, and we did a steam beer, like California Common steam beer.
Nice.
Basically, the first few I was kind of handpicking people, and now we're starting to have people submit for it and requests to do a beer for the tap.
That's sick.
So
when I came in to try our collab, what was the gentleman's name? I forgot.
Kim Watts.
Yes,
Yeah.
fellow Australian. So we have a nice little chat. So you guys were talking about this saison that you're.
So we're brewing that next week, and it's using Matuika. And Kim's thing, Kim's thing is he brews with Kim's thing is wild beers. Kim brews a lot with Brett. Kim brews a lot with diastatic yeasts. He does a lot of saisons. He does a lot of like wild fermented beers. So for him, like, to do a beer in my brewery, it's like, what can we brew that is true to your style, but isn't gonna make all of my beers funky?
Okay.
So or make my cans explode, because I don't know how familiar you are with diastatic yeasts, but diastatic yeasts are yeasts that can ferment all sugars. So beers have residual sugars, and diastatic yeast can eat all those residual sugars that most yeasts can't. So if you get a diastatic yeast infecting a beer that's not supposed to be diastatic, and you think it's done, and then you package it, the yeast can come back alive and eat the rest of the sugars, and the cans will blow up. It's a common cause of cans blowing up, as you getting a diastatic infection in your beer. So basically,
can you use those yeast in all styles, or is it specific to just the wilder type of ones?
It tends to be, because it's basically in beers that you want like a really dry character in. So the diastatic yeasts are like the king of the saison world. Like, most saisons are diastatic yeast. But in the commercial world, the commercial brewing world, a lot of people don't want to touch diastatic yeast. So there's a few saison strains that are designed to be non-diastatic saison strains, and they don't quite get the same result. So he did a bunch of test batches with this non-diastatic saison strain to come up with a recipe that gets him the result he wants, but using this non-diastatic strain. So he's using like enzymes that help a regular yeast break down the complex sugars so he can get it as dry as he wants. He's using like grains of paradise and stuff to get some of that peppery note that you really usually only get with like the saison strains. So I'm excited for that beer. It's gonna be a fun one. We're brewing that next week, so that'll be out in probably, I think, three or 4 weeks after.
Nice.
Okay. So that's gonna be like a dry saison kind of vibe. Like, I think it's gonna sit around 6%.
Okay, so it's probably on the higher end for what you do.
Yeah, and it's nice because it's so dry, because we're eating all those residual sugars. I can get more ABV out of my mash tun than I can normally get, because more of the sugar is turning into alcohol, whereas normally some of that sugar stays as sugar in the end product.
Gotcha.
So
that's cool. I like that a lot. I like the whole concept of this tap. Anyway, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so yeah, we got a few lined up for the tap. It's basically I think at this point every like 3 months there's a new beer that there'll be a new GTA Brews beer that's going to come out. And the thing we're doing is we don't really have a pilot system. I originally planned to have one, but it didn't take me long to realize it takes me just as much time to brew like two and a half hectoliters, like 250 liters, as it would take me to brew like 40 liters. So like, why am I going to brew 40 liters? So for the GTA Brews tap, we actually do the full like 250 liter batch. We can half of it, so we actually have cans for those. So it's cool for the home brewers. They get to have a commercial brewery release their beer on tap and in cans. They get to take some cans home with them, kind of thing. They get to come to the brew day, just like when you guys did when we did the beer for the fest. So yeah, it's an experience for them. It's fun. I enjoy it. It lets me, what I like about it is I can pick the brain of people in the homebrew community that brew beers that I don't typically brew. Right. So I can learn about like their process and how they brew a beer that, like, I don't make saisons. So it's cool to learn from Kim about like how he makes saisons, like how he develops the recipe, like, so, you know, it's
win either way.
Sorry,
It's a win either way.
totally.
Everybody
Yeah, everybody benefits. It's, you know, it's
I guess it continues to engage the community, but a different community. So you got your locals, obviously, with the neighborhood bar kind of vibe, but now you're continuing to. It's almost like remember your roots and just be like, hey, like folks, like, you know,
totally, yeah.
include them, have a tap, and I imagine it's kind of like, of course, the way you described it was like perfect. That they're going to be pretty stoked about it, but I imagine it sort of gets the brewers want to come down and try it, like other people who know them in the club, like, hey, I'm doing a collab with Bickford. Like, oh,
Oh
shit,
yeah,
okay.
totally. When we do the so basically
Like
the brewers come for the brew day, and then on the launch the home brewer comes down and we post about it in the GTA Brews, and it basically ends up becoming like a mini GTA Brews meeting, like the release, like, because all the home brewers come down to, you know, try the beer and to post about it and to chat, and so it seriously ends up becoming like a mini GTA Brews meeting.
I love that though, because it's showing, because you know what, because you could, just like you were a home brewer and now gone pro, I imagine some of these folks must have ambitions to do the same, and
Yeah,
it's going to
I mean,
be pretty inspirational for them.
yeah, there's a lot of them that have thoughts of you know, everybody that home brews dreams of having their own brewery.
Yeah,
Not everybody can do it, you know.
no,
So
particularly not these days. It's a strange in this economy, in this what do you want to call it? This sort of like state of the industry, I guess.
yeah, it's not a good time to open a brewery.
No, it'd probably be best to sit on that for a bit and keep home brewing
As
and
someone that
collaborate with Bickford.
as someone that opened one a year ago, it's not a good time to open a brewery. I mean, I'm having
Yeah.
fun. I'm having fun.
And you're making it work.
I'm paying the bills.
There you go. That's all you can ask for, kind of at this point, right? Fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
Shall we hit that next one?
Yeah. I don't think we have a planned next beer.
We
So,
do not. What
so
we
do you
feel
have
like?
do you have an idea?
So we have I'm trying to think what would make the most sense. So we got the mild. Yeah, go on.
I feel like going to the mild, I think, might make sense now. What do you
Do it.
think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it at length. The golden mild, right? Is that the one? The golden mild?
Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. Yes, love these glorious bad boys. So this was brewed at Common Good, right?
This actually, as an extension of the talk about GTA Brews. So this was brewed with Common Good, and it was brewed with Chang-Sang Estates Brewery.
Okay.
Which is a funny story because he's a home brewer. He ended up somehow, they did a blog TO did like an article about him as a home brewer. He has like branding and everything. He calls it Chang-Sang Estates Brewery because it's the brewery in his house. And he listed himself on Google Maps like at some point
as like a wow,
his address as Chang-Sang Estates Brewery. And BlogTO did an article on him, and he literally gets people calling him and being like, "Hey man, is the tap room open?"
He's like, "Oh, you can come to my living room if you want."
And he's like, "It's my house." He's like, "If you want to come by and have a beer, like as long as you call me first, we can figure something out." So yeah, so he's a Scarborough home brewer. Common Good is basically the only brewery in Scarborough. So he lives around the corner from this brewery. So they collab regularly. So this year we ended up doing this collab together as part of he does David Chang-Sang, he does a cask festival every year. So it started out during COVID because Cask Days was put on pause. Yeah. And so he did an event in his backyard. And he called it Cask Daves.
Cask Daves.
And it was a bunch of homebrewers brewed casks, and they did it in his backyard. And then every year since he's done it, and now it happens at Common Good, so it's much bigger now. And he's got a pile of pro breweries involved as well. So there's a mix of homebrew casks and pro casks. So we brewed this beer for Cask Daves, and it's an English pale mild.
Okay.
which most people don't know of as existing. It's a very underutilized style, even in England.
Okay.
But basically, it's a lighter version of a dark mild. It's kind of, you could also describe it as a less hoppy version of an English bitter.
Less hoppy English bitter.
It's basically a more malt forward, less hoppy version of an ordinary bitter. So it's like it's 3.7%. It's not as malty as a dark mild. Super. It's a super great summer beer. I feel like, because it's super easy drinking. It's not heavy. It's not too hoppy. But it's low alcohol.
Okay. That is, I still can't get over that this dude has gone and put his home on on Google Maps. That's amazing. And it came out. I just googled. It came out straight away.
Yeah, do you Google Chang-Sang Estates?
So Chang-Sang Estates. There's, oh my gosh, wait. Someone posted in the Toronto craft beer subreddit. Unless this is a joke, they're like, I've heard a lot about GTA Brews Gem Chang-Sang Estates Brewery. They have a location in Scarborough, but no website. Is the beer available to purchase at this site? How do I procure these beers?
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Oh, this is so fun. Oh, even here, David's a home brewer, so he cannot legally sell his beer. The listing on Google Maps is literally just his house. It's not a storefront or anything like that. That is so funny.
So people call him and they're like, is your tap room open? And he's like, did you not notice that the Google map listing is in a residential neighborhood? Like, did you not notice it's a house?
Sometimes the breweries are in weird places, in their defense, but
yeah,
not that weird. Yeah. Okay, so this is the triple collab. Cheers, brother. This is 3.7%.
3.7.
Right? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the style again. It's a pale English pale mild.
It's an English pale mild. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because we got talking about what to do. We wanted to do something English. We were talking English IPA. We were talking dark mild. We ended up landing on this, and it's an interesting thing because there's the BJCP, the Beer Judge Certification Program. They basically outline a pile of styles. They tell you what it should look like, what it should taste like, what it should smell like. And they're basically, when you do judging in most judging, most homebrew judging, and a lot of pro brewing judging, it's kind of the guidelines they use to define styles. Yes. So when you submit something and you say it's this, they look at the style and be like, well, it's supposed to taste like this. It's supposed to smell like this. It's basically the guideline for the style. This is a style that doesn't exist in the BJCP guidelines, other than a tiny footnote in the dark mild category where they say there also exists versions of this beer that are lighter in color, but this style does not cover those beers, but they never tell you what style does. So I asked a buddy of mine from the brew club that's from England, and he said he thinks in his entire life he's had 3 pale milds that were actually marketed as pale milds, and he said he suspects that most places that make a pale mild just call it an ordinary bitter. Because ordinary bitter is the lowest alcohol level of the bitters. There's ordinary bitter, there's best bitter, there's ESB, or like extra special bitter. That makes sense. And so it's a low ABV bitter, but it's also a lot less hoppy than a normal ordinary bitter. So it's just a more malt forward version of ordinary bitter is what it boils down to.
Okay.
And so I was told we were doing a pale mild, and we started working on the recipe, and I had them add some pale chocolate to it to get a little more color, because that's what English would call pale. It would be like a little more amber, almost like coppery kind of color. Yeah. Nobody at any point told me they're planning on calling it golden mild as the beer name. If they'd told me that, I wouldn't have made it that dark in color.
That makes sense.
But I was thinking English pale, go copper. I mean, I think
it makes complete sense.
I think it's a great beer. I think it looks good. It's like a lighter dark mild.
Yeah, it's got so much flavor. I'm just trying to even get my head around the flavors in this. It's so interesting. Like even
with it having the lighter hop to it, it's the English esters, like the esters from the yeast, really kind of shine, and then that you get the little bit of that fruity note from the yeast, kind of a peachy, kind of appley, kind of
That's what I'm
like
getting.
vibe from the yeast, which exists in most English beers, but in something like an English bitter, you have a little bit more of the hop character, right? To
Yeah.
in
So
there as well.
what hops are in this one?
So this is Ontario hops. This is Glacier, which is my key, like it's my key Ontario hop that kind of is like an English hop. So Glacier has a little
Yes.
bit of a like
So
Fuggles.
substitute Fuggle, Willamette, Tettnang. It says.
Yeah, so yeah, it's got a bit of that. It's kind of bred from Willamette, I believe. So it's got a bit of that like Willamette Fuggles kind of ancestry. So it kind of gets you that kind of earthy kind of little bit floral kind of vibe. But it's very lightly hopped. Like the IBU on this is like 18, I believe. I don't know if they do. Yeah, 18 IBU. So yeah,
they did put that here. Yep, interesting. I like it, man. I'm a really big fan of British styles, and I feel like this is something that I hadn't tried before. And it was just like what I wrote down on my quick review. They're like tangy, but then you said fruity. I'm like, that's what the fuck it is. That peach and apple.
Yeah, you get that from you get that from the English yeast. They give a bit of a fruity note to them. It's actually interesting because the main yeasts used in hazy IPA are actually English yeasts.
Right. Yeah, Foggy London and stuff.
Yeah, totally. They're English yeasts, and they push that fruitiness, and they biotransform some of those hops and get you even more fruitiness. So that, like, if you tried to make a hazy IPA like base recipe, but used like a Chico, like a US-05, like a standard West Coast ale yeast, you wouldn't get the same punch that you get by using the English yeast, because those guys just like they have a nice level of esters to them. You get the flavor from the yeast.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, which is almost like sometimes underutilized in a lot of, or at least maybe not underutilized, under focused on like the flavors that the yeast to live. Everyone always talks about the hops.
People talk about the hops. Like the general beer drinkers don't know the difference between this yeast and that yeast, right? So the hops are an easy thing to. The hops are a much easier thing to understand. Like they have brand names, and it's like that people come to recognize, and it's like not very breweries are pointing out like, oh, this uses London Fog, or this uses like London 3. And the thing with the yeast too is like every yeast supplier has a different name for that same yeast, and there's like they try to allude to each other, like yeah, London 3 and London Fog are the same yeast, but they're not allowed to directly call that out because someone released a yeast and then someone else copied it, essentially, right? So they can't say
their version.
So they're just like, yeah, this is this thing that's vaguely named the same thing, but we can't point out that it's the same strain.
Right. I never thought about that. Is it like, did they take it? Like, did someone make it and then someone like took the dregs of one? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of yeast labs and propagation in that, but
it's pretty crazy.
But there are but yeast is a living organism, right? So if you have a yeast and you pitch it multiple times and you're making batches of a beer with it, and then someone pulls that yeast and propagates it and sells it commercially, and then someone else pulls that yeast from a different beer that has been made a certain amount of times and propagates it. It's like, yeah, it's the same yeast strain, but yeast evolves. So like even across 10 batches, like a lot of pro breweries, they'll restart with a fresh pitch every 10 batches or so, because you hit a point where it starts changing and your beer flavor changes. So depending on when they pulled that yeast and how they propagated it, they're the same strain, but like from one lab to the other, they might be different, just because they've evolved, and they evolve based on what you feed them too. So like if you take a yeast and you exclusively do 9% beers with it and continuously reuse it, that yeast will get really good at fermenting 9% beers. And then if you take that same pitch and then use it in a 3% beer, it might not have the the nutrients it needs to do what it needs to do, because it's used to having all this material from 9% beers. So like, for example, Kvike yeasts, I don't know how much you know about Kvike yeasts, like the Norwegian kind of like, they're typically been bred to brew like higher ABV beers. So when you do lower ABV beers with them, you have to add extra nutrients to like feed them.
Right. That's also, we were talking earlier about like the hack for the lagering on the smaller system when you don't have that with that yeast. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like Kvike has some sort of, maybe it's not for lager, but there's like a hack you can do something with them.
People do pseudo lagers with Kvike. So the deal with Kvike is they kind of don't, that like as you go higher in temperature with the yeast, you get off flavors with most yeast. Like you go into the mid 20s with most ale yeasts, and you're going to get like bad flavors that don't work.
Gotcha.
And with lagers, same thing, but the temperature range for lagers is lower.
Right.
Kvike, somewhere in the generation of these yeasts in Norway, the genes that create those bad flavors got turned off. Okay. So you can ferment with Kvike. Like I ferment my Gose with Kvike at 40 degrees Celsius.
Jeez.
And I get no bad flavors from it. You actually get some like tropical flavors from the yeast. You don't get, normally you would get like phenolics, like peppery flavors that just aren't pleasant. You would get fusels, like hot alcohol kind of flavors that just aren't pleasant. But with these Kvike yeasts, you don't get that. And that has led to them like pulling Kvike yeasts that ferment kind of cleaner and marketing them as a way, if you ferment that yeast at like 16 degrees Celsius, you'll get kind of a more lagery character that you would normally have to ferment colder for, or like even 18 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius. You get to the point where you can market something to home brewers that don't have full temp control, where they can just throw a fermenter in their basement, pitch this Kvike yeast, and it's going to be pretty clean. The issue with Kvike in that scenario is Kvike yeasts actually lower the pH more than regular yeasts.
Right.
So you end up with, people call it the Kvike twang or tang.
That makes so much sense.
And that's what it's from. It's like the final pH is lower, but you can counteract that. So you can raise the pH of the beer going into fermentation so that the end pH is closer to what a normal beer is. But I mostly use Kvikes in my Goses.
So it doesn't even really matter because
it doesn't really matter because it's going to be sour anyway. But the thing that makes it great in Goses is I don't want to give away too many secrets, but the thing that makes it great in Goses is the typical way you'd make. A lot of people make Gose as a kettle sour, so it takes 2 days. You gotta make the wort, and then you have to sour the wort overnight, come back the next day, and then boil the wort. So basically you're adding the bacteria to sour it. Once it's sour, you're boiling it to kill the bacteria, and then you're putting it in the fermenter and pitching yeast. So it makes it a more involved process. I do my Goses as a co-pitch in the fermenter at 40 degrees Celsius. And where that's key is that Kvike can ferment at like 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. Lacto needs to sour between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. So I can just do one brew day, pitch everything into the fermenter at 40 degrees Celsius, pitch my Kvike, pitch my my lacto, and within a day it's fermented and soured. Because at 40 degrees Celsius, Kvike ferments incredibly quickly. Because that's the thing, is all yeasts ferment quicker at higher temperatures. So that's the reason lagers take more time, is because you're at a lower temperature, so it takes longer to ferment. So when you brew with Kvike at 40 degrees Celsius, it's done in like a day.
Damn.
Like I pitch it and then I come back the next morning and it's like, oh yeah, it's almost done. Like this is like 18 hours later or whatever.
That's a pretty big plug right there. Like that's going to be pretty incredibly convenient.
The thing is, you have to feel comfortable having lacto continuing to live, right? Because it's a potential infection risk
for your other beers.
Yeah, because when you do it as a kettle sour, you're killing the lacto before it touches anything post boil kettle. So there's zero infection risk with a kettle sour. Right. But with the way I do my sparging my fermenters hold 90-degree water for 20 minutes every brew day. So there's never I'm not worried about my fermenter. My bright tanks and canning are a different story, but I've come to realize that like as long as you pick a lacto strain that is not hop tolerant, because hops tend to impede lacto from souring. It's one of the purposes of hops in beer is like you add hops to a beer and it's not going to go sour. So
I see.
So as long as I use a lacto strain that hasn't grown to be tolerant of hops, then as long as any other beer I make has hops in it, it's not going to sour.
Gotcha.
And so that's the thing with my Goses is I can't add any hops to my Gose before fermentation is done. So I add no hops in the boil kettle. All the hops are added in the fermenter after it's at the sourness level I want.
So it's kind of dry hopping essentially.
It's totally dry hopping, and you actually do it to halt the sourness. So normally you would, once you hit the sourness you want, you would boil. Me, once I hit the sourness I want, I dry hop it. Because the dry hops will stop the sourness. Will stop the lacto from continuing to sour.
Gotcha. I remember seeing at the brewery you had the posters in the stairwell, and there, or the bottom of it, and there was the raspberry version and the dry hopped version.
Yeah. So my regular Gose is dry hopped.
Gotcha.
There's the dry hop Gose, and then there's the fruited Gose. Yeah.
Which is sick, because what I was thinking was, because it had been so long since I'd really seen Goses, just because of, I don't know, Ontario just doesn't seem to have as many. And also, like what we were talking about earlier, that sort of renaissance back, 8 years ago. When I think about dry hop sours, I feel like there were more often Berliner Weiss, like a straight Berliner that was dry hopped. And then I don't recall, maybe just memory at this point because it's been a while, but dry hop Goses. I was like, sick. So like a dry hop version, so like an OG, and then a nice fruited version. I think you've done multiple. You did a raspberry peach as well. I think you had, right?
I had a raspberry peach. Yeah, I've got others planned. I think I might do a blood orange at some point. I've done a winter one in the past where the GTA Brews they do an advent calendar, so 24 people snag spots, 24 people brew beers, and then you kind of mix the beers and everybody drinks the same beer on each day, so that they get numbered, and then everybody chats about them in the chat and like reviews them, kind of thing. So one of the advent calendars I did a cranberry sauce Gose. Nice. So I did cranberry, and I did rosemary at the tail end of the boil, so it had a bit of a rosemary note to it, and cranberry. So, and that one was very good. So I'm plan on bringing that back kind of late fall. So
Thanksgiving-y type of vibes right there.
Totally, yeah. So the there's plans for the fruited one to kind of change with the seasons, kind of thing. So currently we got raspberry. Next is going to be raspberry again, just because I have another bag of fruit puree, so I have to use it up.
Gotta smash that out. Look, raspberries, like a no-brainer. Like it's
raspberry is a golden, like the perfect fruit to add to a sour beer, because it's already got some tartness to it. One of the issues with adding fruit to beer is the sugar gets eaten by the yeast. So some fruits, once you remove the sugar, it doesn't taste like the fruit anymore. So you have to add a lot of it to get the fruit flavor. But raspberry, because part of the flavor of a raspberry is that little bit of tartness it has, when you add it to a sour beer, it really helps push that raspberry taste. So that's why I love using raspberry in sours so much.
Interesting.
You don't have to use as much of it.
And I guess that shit's expensive. Isn't raspberry the most expensive one?
Yeah, but I mean, it's counteracted by the fact that you don't go to use as much of it.
Oh
yeah, for sure, raspberry is the most expensive one. And fruit puree is not cheap. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that shit is crazy expensive. I remember I was talking to someone recently. I can't remember if it was on the pod or not, but there was like a raspberry. No, it was on the pod. A raspberry shortage of a while ago. Or there was a shortage, and therefore it was already and made an already expensive puree even more expensive.
Yeah.
which was crazy. And there were some like shitty ones as well, like shitty version. People would sell it anyway because I think it was the raspberries were coming out whack.
Oh,
then,
right. And so companies were like, we're going to still package it because there's a shortage and people will buy it up anyway.
And they're like, the fuck is this? And so it was like, yeah, not the right color and just tasted weird and stuff. And people, you still paying out the ass for this stuff, but they were like, I don't know, you asked for it, yeah. Type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like that you still use the fruit purees and the way you described it in the first beer with that gives it that depth, and then you can complement that with the flavoring. Even when we did the collab with Blood Brothers, it's off screen now, but the stout, like we had raspberry puree in it, and it's so overwhelming. Like even in a 12% stout, the raspberry was so strong. So once we pulled that back, then the raspberry puree worked, but they were like real vanilla doesn't really taste like vanilla. Like in there, so it was better to use extract to get that vanilla flavor. And I find that is that's something that maybe most that during this collab process I sort of learned. I was like, oh, I didn't realize because I hadn't really played with that before. We'd done much more straight up and down collabs previously until we went crazy with all this stuff. So it was like it's fascinating to see what fruit can do and then what extracts can do and how to delicately balance the two to not
I think a mix of the two is what you kind of need for fruit beer is what I'm discovering. So when I used to do the raspberry Gose homebrew, I would use frozen whole fruit that I would mash up with like a potato masher, like by hand, just squishing it, and I would throw it in the fermenter, and that worked great. You got a nice color from it. You got a good fruit character.
Fresh, bright,
it's and the freezing of it tends to kill most bacteria that you'd be concerned about. And also the other thing that the freezing does, the fact that it's frozen fruit, is it breaks down the cell walls, which gets you more flavor when you add it to the beer because the yeast, like everything, can penetrate all the flavor.
So as soon as you squish it, it's just all open.
It's all open. You throw it in the fermenter. It's all accessible to the yeast. It's all accessible to the beer, and that worked great. But now at my scale, it's not. It's a lot of work. It's expensive. It's there's a lot of things you can do as a home brewer because you don't have to sell the product, so you're not worried about it being profitable, right? You're not worrying about having to make money off it. Yes, totally. You really have a lot more freedom in terms of what you do. So once you're selling it, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to use the aseptic puree because it's got no bacteria in it. I can be safe that I can add it. Because that's the other thing is if you add fruit to a 20-liter batch and the fruit infects the batch somehow and you end up with a bad batch, you're throwing away 20 liters of beer. If you do that to like 250 liters and it's taken up a brew turn, you're now like losing money. So you can't really do that. So I use the aseptic purees. So they've been pasteurized. They don't have any bacteria in them. But the issue is you just don't get quite the flavor level and you don't get the color that you would normally get.
Really? Even with raspberry?
Without adding like a lot of it. And it's expensive. So
I guess, does it depend on which fruit? Probably.
It totally depends on which fruit. I'm still playing with the different fruits, but yeah, it would definitely depend on which fruit. But the raspberry peach one, I added the bag of peach. The raspberry one I just added one bag of raspberry, and I was like, it's not quite enough raspberry. Like I'm not quite getting, it's close, but it's not quite there. And that's when this is the first one I used extract in the bright tank, and I used a very small amount of extract. But enough to kind of push that aroma that blows off when you ferment. Because when you add raspberry to a tank and then you ferment, a lot of that aroma is blowing out of the tank during the fermentation. It's leaving. But when you add it to the bright tank as extract, it's like it stays in the beer. So this is the first one the raspberry one was the first one I did where it's like you pour that in your glass and you smell it and you're like, that smells like straight up raspberry. And big like time. You taste it and you're like, that's raspberry. And it's not much extract, but it just that addition of extract kept me from having to add an extra bag of puree, and it kept it like smelling and tasting like. But because I'm using the raspberry puree as well, you still get the depth. You don't get that one note like extract flavor. You get like the depth of the raspberry plus that like top note, raspberry top note, and that aroma that comes off when you first pour it that I didn't get on like the raspberry peach version was good. It was very good, but it just didn't have that extra little kick of aroma and flavor that the raspberry version had, despite the fact that the raspberry version uses one less bag of puree, which saves a lot of money.
Good point. Okay, so if you did the raspberry peach again, would you add a little bit of raspberry and a little bit of peach pure extract?
Potentially, yeah. I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And I think I would base how much I add of each based on how the beer tastes and smells post fermentation. So that's one of the beautiful things about adding the extract into the bright tank is you can let the beer ferment with the puree, pull samples, and then you can dose the extract with a dropper to figure out how much. Like I did it in a 5-ounce glass and I just did drop at a time and was like, how does that taste? And then you can find the exact dosage, and then you just calculate, like that was for a 5-ounce glass, how much for a 120 liter bright tank. And that's basically what I did, and then just scaled it up. So that's one of the beauties of it is depending on how your fermentation goes, how much of that character you get, you can kind of adjust the extract amount to kind of get the beer where you need it.
That's pretty sick, man. I like that approach though. I don't know. I learned more about, because I you always think sort of maybe extracts are cheating or taste artificial, but like they really do have a
place.
They have a big place, yeah, for sure. It's cool. It's good to know. So the version of the raspberry Gose I would have had a couple of weeks ago, was that the version with the extract?
That's the new version, yeah. Did you want to move to that as our next beer?
Yeah, fuck it. We're talking about it.
Should we take a short break first?
I was also thinking exactly.
Yeah.
On the same wavelengths. All right, Joe. We'll be right back. And we are back. And perfect segue. We're gonna hit the old Gose, since we've been talking about this bad boy for a significant portion of the conversation. This is the what goes around raspberry Gose, the OG here, 4.2%. Is this somewhat of a flagship at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a beer I was known for in the homebrew world, so it's kind of it's certainly become that. It's since we've opened, we've always had the dry hop version. The fruited version took a while for me to do, just because I had to learn that system and get comfortable fruiting it. But yeah, I mean, it takes up 2 of my taps right now. So
yeah. So which one do you have on the tap? So it's the
raspberry and the dry hopped.
And the dry hopped. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And
this is the raspberry.
And this is once again the one with the
puree and extract.
Okay. So the difference between the non-extract version and this one would be a less pronounced kind of nose.
Get a little bit less aroma, a little less punch of flavor. The non-extract one was also raspberry peach. So it was 1 bag of raspberry, 1 bag of peach.
Gotcha. So
it was predominantly
just raspberry.
At the brewery, yeah.
Shit!
I did it regularly homebrew, but this is the first time I did it at the brewery.
I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, money. Yeah, it's nice and bright. If you didn't tell me about the extract, I would never have guessed it.
You just get fresh raspberry, right, on the nose.
Fresh raspberry. It's so juicy. It's tangy. It's sweet, but just the right amount of sweetness for 4.2. Like super light. I would never have guessed it's 4.2.
You get that kind of salty, that salt note in there as well from the Gose. There's coriander in there as well, but it kind of hides in the fruited versions. It just kind of becomes another kind of, because coriander kind of has a bit of a fruity kind of vibe to it.
Okay.
When you add it to beer.
Is that a regular?
That's a Gose. That's like one of the core definitions of Gose. the BJCP allows it to be with coriander or without, but it's kind of one of the defining characters of I guess modern Gose. Gose is an interesting beer style because it comes from Germany, from a specific area of Germany.
Okay.
The river is saline. The river has salt in it, so their water source is salty. And it's a that's why Goses are salty. Just that was their water source had salt in it. It was historically it was wild fermented, so they didn't pitch yeast, so it was soured from bacteria that was in the environment. They actually did this thing where they would bottle it, and then the yeast would secondary ferment and plug the bottle, so it would get a yeast plug in it that would like seal it.
That's funny.
It's a very, very old style. It's died like 3 times. Like, it was an old style that disappeared. Somebody found an old recipe, rebrewed it. It became a thing again. It died again, and then somebody found a recipe and brought it back. And then the American market like discovered it and turned it into a different thing. So all versions of Gose are kind of different. Mine are kind of the Americanized version.
Okay.
My understanding is the like Leipzig Gose, like from the origin, is less sour than the American version.
Yeah. They had it in the LCBO one time, so I just grabbed the bottle of it. And to be honest, whenever I had it, I just remember it being. I was like, "Oh, this tastes like all the stuff I have here." Like, it tasted pretty much on point from anything else.
So it's possible the modern version of it in Germany is same as the American version here. I haven't tried any of the German ones because, like I said, there's 2 previous iterations of it in Germany, but I know one of the previous iterations was less sour. Okay, it was still salty, but it was less sour.
Less sour. Okay. Well, I googled it quick while you're looking. It says it's from the town of Goslar, Goslar. And it's named after the Gose River that flows through it. And it's, salty flavors attributed to the mineral-rich water of the Gose River, but salt is now added to it. And it originally, I think, as you said, was originally fermented with wild yeast and producing casks. And then, migration to Leipzig. While originating in Goslar, Gose became particularly popular in Leipzig, where it was widely brewed and consumed. And it declined after World War II, which is what you were saying, and then seen a resurgence in recent years, both in Germany and internationally.
So it's when you enter now in the Pro Brewing Awards, they don't necessarily go by BJCP. They kind of create their own categories. And now with a Gose, you declare it as either a contemporary Gose or a Leipzig Gose.
No shit.
Are the 2 kind of versions, and the contemporary can be fruited or dry hopped or anything, whereas the Leipzig Gose is supposed to be like a traditional
straight
like
up and
Gose.
down.
Yeah.
That is fascinating
because most American versions are fruited. Some dry hopped, but most are fruited. When I did BJCP, I would enter it as, like, for the homebrew competitions, I would enter it as mixed style beer, and I would say it's a Gose / pale ale, and I would dry hop it, so then I could account for the dry hop. Now they have a better process for mixed style beer, so now I can say, I don't have to say it's a Gose / pale ale. I can say it's a Gose that's been dry hopped. They let you now, instead of declaring 2 styles, you can declare a style and then with a process that's not part of the style. And so now it's a little bit more streamlined in that way. I would enter it as a traditional Gose, and I would enter it as a fruity Gose. Often I would just enter the dry hopped Gose as dry hopped and as traditional. And it's a funny thing that happens with perception. When you give somebody a beer and you say it's a traditional Gose and it's dry hopped with like Citra, they taste the fruitiness and the punch from the Citra, and they go, "Oh, you really got really expressive flavors from the yeast." And it's like, no, it's all the Citra I added.
I guess because it's all blind, right? I guess they don't know.
It's all blind. They have no idea what you've done to it. All they know is that you handed them a beer and you told them it was a traditional Gose. So anything they taste, they're going to try to frame into what they would taste in a traditional Gose.
Why would they let you do that?
It's just how it works. So they would. So if they get like citrus character, they're like, "Wow, you really got like nice citrus notes from the bacteria in the yeast." And it's like, yeah, I did. And the Citra.
in this and decision.
Yeah.
And decision.
So
I even
whereas when I would enter it as the one where I declare it was dry hop, they'd be like, "Oh, you got really nice character from the Citra, nice use of Citra as your dry hop," because they know it's there.
right, but otherwise it's not. It's just it's so interesting that if it's not, because then it's not traditional, then right? Like if it's got a dry hop, but then I guess technically they shouldn't let you enter the same that beer in both categories.
I mean, if it tastes like to them, if it tastes like a traditional Gose and they want to give me the medal for it.
I mean, that's a good point because then that's up to the judges to identify that. I'm like, oh, dude, this is definitely something's altered here. Like they should know what a Gose tastes like.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I've even found more information on it in the meantime. It said that it started in the year 1000.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
It's a very old style of beer.
Crazy.
Like we're talking back in the day that they didn't know that it was yeast that made beer. They just knew that if they made this sugary product and left it out, it would make them feel happy. Right? That's really all they knew. They didn't know yeast was a thing. Right? It was just like you leave this out and then it ferments and it becomes a thing.
Make them feel happy.
And to the point where like in Germany, the I'm going to pronounce it terribly, but the Reinholzkebab, whatever. Yeah, that says what you're allowed to add to beer. Originally didn't say you could add yeast because they didn't know that was a thing.
So the 1516, the original law, I guess.
It was like malt water hops.
Oh,
like
shit.
they weren't like you can also add yeast. They were like, because back then they didn't add yeast. Yeast just existed. Right?
Yeah, particularly if you just leave the shit out. Just
if you leave I mean, that's still how the Belgians do it. Like the Belgian wild styles, they
like a fucking cool ship.
Exactly. They cool it open to the air, so like whatever's in the environment is getting into that and it will ferment. Like you don't need to add anything to it. So
it's pretty funky. Huh?
So that was how Gose used to be made. So the original Gose would have had a bit more funk to it because it would have definitely had things like Brettanomyces and like those wild yeasts that give you the funky note to it.
That's pretty sick.
But
I can't believe it's like 1,000 years old.
But like the more modern versions definitely are usually kettle soured, so they're typically not funky. No, they're just like sour, salt, and then usually fruited or dry hopped or whatever.
Honestly, this is fantastic. By the way, I'm loving. I don't know. I feel almost like annoyed that I haven't been drinking Gose as much for the last couple of years, like because I just don't see them. This is such a fantastic beer.
I know Left Field makes them every now and then. I don't know if they still do, but they had a Gose. Collective Arts does some, but I find theirs to be a little bit more like smoothie. Like they're a little bit too much on fermented fruit in the beer, where it's like this isn't. I don't perceive it as a Gose. I perceive it as like a more modern fruit beer that just happens to maybe have some salt in it.
That's basically that's a fair point. Missorum just did a drop of, they did like 4 different ones, and Nate got me some, and the one I got, it's like blueberry pomegranate. It's a Gose called Why So Salty, and it's just a smoothie sour with salt in it. Really,
I mean that's the modern thing, right? Because the smoothie sours, like you said, smoothie sours kind of took over the sour world in a way.
They kind of did. I had other breweries tell me that people would come into them and they would get a beer like this, like a regular fruited sour, and they'd be like, why is it not like thick? What's going on? Because the newer, think about it, like you and me got into beer a while ago, but if you got into beer in 2021,
that's what they think of fruited beer is.
That's what they think of fruited beer is. They have no idea of any other sour beer except the one that looks like a banana smoothie type shit.
Yeah, and I don't drink that stuff much, but I went to Vancouver and went to Superflux.
Oh,
and they have and they have a beer called Heavy Fruit, and it's literally a glass of fruit puree. It's got some beer in it. It's delicious, but it's like it's
it a beer?
It's funny to call that beer to me because it's like, yeah, I'm sure there was beer there at some point before you added like a ton of puree to it.
That's a big argument in the beer nerd world. Like, there's more purists are like, there's no fucking beer, and then like I'm more like,
Yeah.
I don't care. I like fun, stupid shit in beer.
I
So I'm
mean,
like, well,
I have no problem if you want to call that beer. It's delicious. I mean,
it's
I'm
like
not,
half
I'm not, I'm not going to buy that stuff in cans. I won't take
No.
that in cans. I mean, it in cans. It's just not it's not. I feel like it's not a safe product. There's ways to like kill the
You can
yeast to
pasteurize.
make it
Yeah.
safe, but a lot of places aren't doing that. There were stories
No.
about cans blowing up in people's
Oh yeah.
backpacks in the hot sun and stuff, right? Like
Well, I mean that they shouldn't be carrying them in a backpack in a hot
they
sun in
shouldn't
the
they
first
shouldn't be.
place.
But that's the thing is if you're just used to buying beer, most beer is shelf stable. Like most beer you can put in your
That
backpack
is
in the
fair.
hot sun and it's not going to blow up.
It's not going to blow.
So,
To every time I go to like say Counterpart and I'm buying a beer and I'm buying a smoothie and the bartender's like, "Have you had smoothies before?" I'm like, "A few times," but they
yeah.
warn you. They tell you what it's like. They go out of their way to tell you like what the situation is.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I think probably every brewery who makes smoothies should probably just
should
be
do,
like,
yeah.
"Yo, don't keep these." Well, at the same token, I remember it was on my mother-in-law's, I don't know, before we moved here, and I had the Rorschach smoothie, and then there was no room in the fridge, and I just had it in the living room for like a week. It was fine. So, and even in my experience,
it's not always going to be a problem.
No, it's not always going to be.
But it can be.
Absolutely. I've had more. I've never had a smoothie explode on me, but I've had every other style. Like, because I got a reasonable sized cellar going on here, and as a part of things that get in there and age, shit happens. Or obviously it's part of the game. So I had something the other week. I can't remember what style it was, but it was something regular. Just whatever. I've had stouts, lagers, like all sorts of different things that probably just had secondary fermentation going on. Maybe a bit of a problem
happens
canning
with all
something.
styles.
Yeah, I personally haven't had that, so I'm always like a little not protective, but just like, yeah, look, I know what happens with smoothies, but it's typically due to mishandling.
Yeah.
If it's kept in the fridge, then
and certainly a smoothie isn't a style. A smoothie sour is not a style you typically want to cellar for a long time. Like it's something you buy and you drink it quickly. Like you don't let it sit for too long anyway. Because like you're gonna get the best product if you drink it fresh.
Absolutely, and I guess at the end of the day, it's a perishable fruit product. So you can wait a bit from I guess. Like I've had one
as long as you keep it cold. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how they make it. Like Mortalis in New York, they're basically like a smoothie. Mostly they do smoothies and stouts is probably what they're known for. And my friend's a brewer there. We did a collab with them for the anniversary. Actually, you might have tried it. Did you try that one? The Hydra, the Pavlova smoothie.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did.
That one. It was bright purple. So
it was good.
Yeah, they did a great job. That's what they do. And he told me he sent me stuff in the past, and it was maybe like a year old, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And he said, no, it's fine. And I drank. It was completely perfect. It tasted like it was a week old.
I mean, if it's stored correctly, you know.
Well, he shipped it, so there's definitely a period where it was in the mail. But yeah, he must have stored it correctly. But I think maybe there's something, I don't know if they pasteurize or anything, but perhaps there's something.
There's different things you can do too. You don't even need to necessarily pasteurize. If you can get enough of the yeast out of the beer before you add the stuff, and then there's stuff you can add that prevents yeast from growing.
Oh, okay.
So it's not necessarily going to stop yeast from fermenting, but basically yeast will grow as much yeast as it needs to ferment the sugars provided. Right. So you pick a certain amount of yeast and then it'll create more yeast in order to ferment that. But if you can, there's stuff you can add, like I can't remember. There's sorbate. There's like compounds you can add that basically disable yeast's ability to reproduce. So if you get most of the yeast out and then you add that, it's like, yeah, that yeast that's in there can ferment the sugar you just added. But there's like, if they're limited in how many cells they have and they can't reproduce, so it would take a really long time to ferment.
Gotcha.
So places that do it as a regular thing probably are doing that kind of thing to help stabilize it. And so that's why you probably hear about less issues with them having that problem, right? Because you would really need to leave it out of the fridge for like a really long time in order to have enough fermentation to be an issue.
Definitely. Yeah. It's That sounds like exactly it. Yeah, it's all about mishandling stuff, and yeah, people fuck up or they just don't know. It's a newer style or whatever.
But
So
for me, it's a style of beer I prefer to drink from a tap. I prefer to like get it from the source when I
totally
get
get
it.
it.
Um, I
As
mean,
fresh as possible.
I had a couple of them at your event, and they were great. But I don't drink them. I don't drink them often. I've had some at Rorschach when I've been there. They do some cool stuff. They do some cool imagination series stuff.
Yeah, Rorschach are on some crazy shit. Those boys don't fuck
Yeah,
around.
like I said, we're gonna do something with them. I think Matt's gonna come by and do like an imagination series beer at my place with one of the beers I have in my tank, and we're just gonna come up with something. So
Hell yeah.
that'll be for our September anniversary. So
Oh, dude, that's so sick. Like, I feel
it's
like you guys
planned
would.
anyway. If it happens, I mean, it should happen,
I
but
hope
we're
so.
planning it.
I think that'd be perfect because Matt he'll do anything. He doesn't give a fuck. He'll just do anything
He's a
fun
super
and
cool guy. He's like
love
totally
Matt.
into the experimentation side of brewing, which
Yeah,
I love.
and they pull
A
it
lot of
off.
brewers aren't into the like experimenting and doing like weird stuff to figure out what you can do, but he's totally like he just wants to try crazy things to like come up with whatever he can, right?
I think he's one absolutely, and he's one of the few people I think that pull it off. Like I've
On a
never.
regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah, the most ridiculous. I haven't drank it yet. It's still in my fridge. Speaking of smoothies, so for their 8th anniversary in April, they did like we did our collab with them as part of it as well. But they did 8 smoothies, and one of the
Yeah.
smoothies was like basil and tomato sauce.
So
And
that's GTA Brews. So that was
it
done with GTA Brews.
was
So that's the former president of GTA Brews, Eric Cozano. That was his
okay.
idea. Is I guess they talked to him about doing a collab, and he's like, "What fruit do you want to add to the
He's like,
smoothie?"
tomato.
And he's like, "Tomatoes a fruit."
Have you tried it?
I haven't. I didn't get
I
a chance
haven't
to get.
either. I'm a little scared to be honest.
The consensus I've gotten is some people love it and some people absolutely think it's an abomination.
Is it like a Caesar from what you?
I
'Cause
don't
my
know.
guess
I
is
don't
that.
know.
Okay.
I
It's
don't
probably
know.
got some sweetness to it. I feel like it's like it'll probably be decent because Rorschach are very good with stuff like that. Like they really make it work.
Yeah. And I guess they used like their house pizza sauce is what they added.
That's even funnier if that's what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know what? I've had other ridiculous shit. So and that's been that on paper was disgusting, but then you try it, you're like, oh, like it just shouldn't work. So I mean, like,
That's one I really wish I was able to get a can of, but those releases they had like they did like it was a batch of beer that they split into a bunch of different smoothies. So they
yeah,
didn't have a lot of any of them, so they sold out pretty quick.
gotcha.
And I don't and it's Rorschach is one of those breweries that I really love, but they're on the east end of the city. I'm on the west end. I don't get out there very often. So
People who
like
might not understand that is an extraordinarily Toronto thing to say, and it's so correct. It takes
it's
my brother lives near Rorschach and Godspeed, and
yeah,
if I'm up by you, and I'm like, oh, dude, it's gonna take me 40 minutes to get to you. Like,
yeah,
I'm just like, I could get most of the way back to Hamilton before I can
yeah.
get to the east end of Toronto.
It's crazy how big of a divide like the DVP is, the Don
It's
Valley is between the two
insane.
sides of the city. Like
It's so crazy, man. It
when I
really is.
when I was a musician, one of my buddies in a band invited somebody to come over and jam, and he lived on the east end, and the other guy lived on the west end, and the other guy from the west end said, "Yeah, I don't get out east very often." He referred to the other side of the same city as out east, like he's talking about like Nova Scotia.
And it's a valid point. Like, I don't think anyone who understands that
Pe-
Toronto with the third
yeah,
worst traffic in the world.
people that live on the west end tend to stay on the west end. People that live on the east end tend to stay on the east end. And there's a lot of great breweries on the east end. I get out there every once in a while, but not very often. Like there's Godspeed, there's Rorschach, there's
Yeah,
like the original Left Field.
yeah, the
You know,
Greenwood,
I mean,
Eastbound,
I love I'm
Black
so
Lion.
left I love Left Field. I love their branding. They make some good beers. They're I'm glad they opened a location on the west end and that it's got like killer food.
Yeah, I've heard it's
Their
great. I haven't been yet.
their brew pub in Liberty Village is great.
Sick.
but yeah, so at least I get a little bit more access to left field now that they're on the west end.
Yeah,
But yeah, Godspeed and Rorschach, they're pretty close to each other. Whenever I get out to the east end, I try to hit them both up.
definitely a good move. Yeah, you kind of almost got to make the most of it because it's like a trip to another city.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I'm glad they're in walking distance from each other. You can walk from one to the other. It's
yeah, like 20 minutes, easy.
yeah, it's not bad at all. But yeah, I get out to Rorschach every now and then because the GTA Brews homebrew meetings, they occasionally, like every other month or so, they're at Rorschach.
Smart that you guys do that. Do you host them at all?
I did their December social. They do the December meeting is there's no presentations. It's just like a social thing.
Okay, just hanging out, drinking.
And they did that at Bickford, and I'm sure they'll do that at Bickford again. I'm a little bit small for some of their meetings.
They got a lot of members.
If they get a bigger turnout to a meeting, I can't legally have that many people in my space because I'm limited to 30.
Oh shit.
So yeah, yeah,
Okay.
the social meeting tends to work out pretty good. It's usually like the core people. It's not a huge turnout, but it's big. It was a fun time.
That's awesome.
And I always love hanging out with the GTA Brews folks. They're all great people to chat about beer with, because like, yeah, you got people from all different styles of beer that, if you want to find somebody that's really good at brewing a specific style of beer, you can find it at a GTA Brews meeting. You just got to know who to talk to.
That's awesome.
So,
are they the biggest club in Toronto?
They're the biggest homebrew club in Canada.
No shit.
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense. It's Toronto.
Yeah, and so the Brew Slam, which is the GTA Brews yearly competition, is the biggest homebrew competition in Canada. It's actually huge. It's like it's not much smaller than the Canadian Brewing Awards, like the Pro Brewing Awards Canadian competition, because they get people from all over Canada submit to it, right? So
yeah,
so it's pretty big, and the quality of judging is really high at GTA Brews too. So anybody that's a home brewer, I highly recommend send your stuff to Brew Slam. You'll get good feedback. You'll get your stuff really evaluated properly. You'll get, they'll give you tips on how to improve your beer.
That's very cool. I had no idea that it was that serious.
That's a big part of competition, is like the BJCP judges will give you tips. They'll be like, hey, this is a really good beer, but for this style, like, this is a problem. This is how you fix it. So
even over and above, this is a problem. End of story. They're like, this is how you can.
Typically, a BJCP judge is supposed to not only point out flaws in your beer, they're supposed to give suggestions on how to fix it.
That's cool, man.
So and especially in the homebrew world, it's a good piece of feedback to have, and which is one of the main reasons I first started submitting, right? Because it's like you make homebrew and you give it to your friends, and your friends are like, "Oh, this is so cool! You made this beer."
It's also free.
It's free beer. Yeah, totally. But they're not going to be like, "Hey, man, this is not quite as good."
Get
as
a bit of
other
diacetyl.
Yeah, you're not getting that from your friends, but you send it to a judge, and they'll be like, "Hey, this is the problem. This is how you fix it." So if you get good judges. If you get good judges, which GTA Brews, the Brew Slam, they really vet their judges. They get a good judging pool. They really make sure that each judge pair has somebody with like good experience that's going to give good feedback. So at least one of your two judges is going to give you like solid feedback.
I'm judging a Niagara College. They have a thing in August. I got asked to judge that. I've done homebrew competitions before, but I'm not BJCP or anything, but they're like cool with it, I guess, because there's enough experience with. I understand the styles. I hope they at least give you like, this is what to it, because maybe they'll have some fucking weird style that I don't know like much about, like an ice bock or something like that.
I'm not sure how the Niagara College does their competition, but I'm sure they're adhering to BJCP. In which case, you can just look on the BJCP style guidelines, and you're allowed to look at them while you're judging. And
so I can just pull it up.
So you can pull it up and see what that style is supposed to be.
That might be the way to do it, actually, because
Yeah,
if it's even if I know the style well, like maybe because
it's
it's
good as a
supposed
refresher.
yeah,
Yeah,
like a German pilsner versus a Czech pilsner versus a like maybe there's like such subtle differences
and that's the thing
in
with the BJCP style guidelines too. They have a section called style comparison, and
okay.
they'll be like a German compared to a Czech pilsner, a German pilsner should be this and this, and they point out the differences between similar styles. It's
Right.
just so that you have a quick reminder of like, okay, this style that I'm not super familiar with, how's it compared to other styles I am familiar with? And they'll tell you what's different about the similar styles that you might be familiar with, so you can be like, okay, I get it, it's like this, but this is how it's different.
Thank you for
um
that. That's actually going to be really helpful because
yeah,
I don't want to misrepresent anybody's work because these are students who've worked their ass off. They're
yeah,
paying money to
and
learn how to do this. I don't want to fuck anybody over.
even if they're not specifically judging within the BJCP guidelines, the BJCP guidelines are still a good overall guideline for beer styles.
Of course,
um because it will remind you of what a style is
technically by
generally.
the book.
Generally,
Or
yeah.
that's a good point. Also, generally speaking, but I imagine at a school, a brewing school, they're making the students brew to specifications
I would think so. Yeah,
rather
I
than
would
let
think.
them freestyle. They can do that shit later. Like let
There's
them like
yeah, for sure. There's some issues with BJCP. It's very American centric, and one of the issues there is like their description of like English bitters are based on
oh,
what English bitters taste like when they're shipped from England to America. So a lot of
good
English
point.
people read the description of English bitter and they'll be like, that sounds like an old English bitter. That sounds like an English bitter that has too much age on it. Like that's not what a fresh English bitter tastes like, right? Because
You'd
like
think they'd figure that out.
you would think so, but there's always things, right? Like the BJCP is largely written by Americans, so
That's good to
so
know.
yeah,
Okay,
so there is little things like that. There's little things that they're not quite 100% correct about.
gotcha.
But it's generally a good guideline of the beer styles.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you for that. And
Yeah.
just I don't want to forget to come back to this. So the Canadian Brewing Awards that you went
Yes.
to with in a couple months ago, where you connected with the people like Eduardo and April and stuff, you won a very cool award.
Yeah. So it was my first like commercial brewing awards that I'd entered since opening the location. I'd entered like Dog Park and a couple when I was contracting, but it was my first I entered in. I entered it's the first I entered multiple beers in, so I entered a pile of beers, and they ended up deciding to award me as the new brewery of the year, which is a brand new
Amazing.
award they created this year, and they awarded it to me. And I guess they were saying that they were impressed by what I was doing in the community, what I was doing with the Instagrammers. They were impressed that that my beers all did decently well for a brand new brewery, my size. So yeah, it was a cool thing. They told me that they gave me the heads up that like, oh, you should come to the ceremony thing in Vancouver. I'd never been to the West Coast, so it was a cool little trip. Went out there, hung out with the beer Instagrammers. Most of them I knew. I met Hop Happy, who I'd been following for a while, but I'd never met him, so that was cool. And found out that we're basically from the same town. We're from like neighboring towns originally, so that was cool. And yeah, and got named new brewery of the year, which was it's a cool thing. It's it really gives me incentive to step up and try to get more awards in the future. So yeah, I'm submitting to the Canada Beer Cup, which is there's kind of two national commercial brew competitions. There's Canada Brewing Awards and Canada Beer Cup. So Canada Beer Cup's coming up, so I'm entering a bunch of stuff into that. So we'll see how that goes.
Good on you. We just had them on the pod like 2 episodes ago, and
Yeah.
they broke it all down. And like
Who did you have on?
Christina and Hillary.
Okay. Yeah.
On the Business of Beer season.
Yeah.
And we'd spoken 2 years ago when they were in Hamilton, and they donated to Link Up, so we had a little chat there. So I got to attend it to see what it was like.
Oh, cool.
I went to the CBAs in 2017 in Ottawa, as media for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Dominion for the first time. We interviewed them. We had Maddie from Tooth and Nail on, and and that's where I met the I forget her name, Mirielle, I believe, from Lupulin Farms, the hop.
Oh
grower.
yeah.
I think that's her name. Excuse me if I got it wrong,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's correct.
so that got to see the CBAs. That was the first awards one I went to, and then we did that one in 2023. It was sick. It was cool. They were so efficient. I loved how efficient they were. Like, there's so many awards, and they're just like boom, boom, and it was not boring the whole time. It was always like interesting, and I love how they have the satellite viewing party. So they had like one was at the Montreal one was at Kanawaki, which is our good friends and collaborators. They were hosting it, so they won awards. So it was really cool. Like, I was texting them as they were doing it, and they had one in basically every province. A different brewery was like the designated space for it, and I think this year it's in Quebec City in the during the AMBQ, which is awesome. So if are you gonna go to that?
We'll see how I do.
Oh, do they tell you beforehand? Hey, you should probably come.
They typically give you a heads up. Is my understanding.
Okay, if you do go, let me know, and I imagine you probably don't know the people. I'll connect you with everybody I know out there.
Okay, cool.
Just to connect. I'm sure there'll be you meet a million people, but maybe it might be helpful to like. Quebec City has a really cool scene, so it'd be cool for you to go and meet a few folks. And
I'm looking for. I hope hopefully I win something, or maybe I'll just decide to go anyway. But I've been meaning to get up to Quebec City for a while. My wife and I had a trip planned, but our son at the time was really young, and he wasn't. We were finding he wasn't quite up to long car rides. So we opted against it. No, not at all. So
well, you'd have to probably stop. Well, I mean, you could do the whole thing, but it'd be a nightmare. We just stop in Montreal.
Planned, but still, it was like he was not even up for like a 2-hour car ride. So we're like, we're not doing that. Yeah, we're not putting ourselves through that.
No, I've heard it's. I have never experienced it, but Nate's told me it can get a little rough if it's unless you've kind of got the groove down.
Yeah,
wicked. And even Quebec City, even from Hamilton, we were looking at it. And it's like fucking must be like 9 hours or something.
Yeah, it's a long drive. Yeah,
it's not that bad because we drive to Florida, so I'm fine. But we usually try and cap it at like 7. Usually the optimal is 4 to 6 a day, so that you're not too tired and that you can get there at a reasonable time. Because when you go and like put the destination into Waze or whatever, and it says 763 kilometers, fucking 9 hours and 34 minutes, you just want to be like, fucking. It's so bad. You're watching it tick down so slowly. But if you've got like a shorter ride, or if you've got little like a brief stop on the way somewhere, it just sort of like helps to.
You have shorter checkpoints to look towards instead of like such a long big number. Yeah. But yeah, when you throw a screaming 18-month-old into the mix, it's like, yeah, no thanks.
Different. No,
I don't want to be screamed at for 9 hours while we drive.
You definitely want to avoid that if you can. But yeah, if you're able to get down, I feel like you would. I feel like as the business owner and as a brewer who's like in a position now to be connecting with people, and obviously that's something that you're really good at, that you do a lot anyway. But I think because I lived in Montreal and I'm not from Canada, so I lived in Toronto and then lived in Montreal, and I'm always looking. I'm like, why is they're collaborating a lot more now, but when I was there, a lot of the time, no one was really working together. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, you're right next to each other. You're both doing amazing stuff. But then that sort of changed a lot. But I feel like a lot more people are super open to that, and they understand that there's, particularly now with this Canadian sort of pride, where instead of going to the States, people from, say, Ontario are going to go to Quebec and vice versa. Yeah. So there's more opportunities to sort of sync up together, and and it's a good look for both if you do a collab out there or they come down this way or something like that. Like it's
and I mean like going to the Brewing Awards, you meet a lot of other brewers from other places. That's where I got hooked up with Flora Hall. They were at the Brewing Awards. The owner and the brewer were there. They won a few awards.
Was it Rod and Dave?
Yeah, so I got chatting with them. And that's how the collab was born. And I was chatting with Cam from Smithers Brewing, which is in northern BC, like up in the mountains, and they actually won Brewer of the Year. So they won Brewery of the Year. So they won the big guy. And he he was super great. He ended up being in Toronto for a wedding, and he popped into the brewery and tried a bunch of beers, and he was like, hey, if you're ever coming up my way, let me know and I'll keep a tank open so we can do a collab. So at some point, if I find myself in the mountains of BC, I got a collab lined up.
That's fun, man. It's cool, right? Like, it's a nice that's what the fun part about beer is.
Speaking of collabs, should we dig into the BAOS, the stout?
This has been a segue night, eh?
Yeah,
kind of perfect. So this little bad boy, this beer, I haven't had this out of the can for a bit. I actually had this on nitro at the brewery when I came by, because I wanted to try that again on nitro, because goddamn it's spectacular. So this is our collab that we did good catch, as a part of the X series, which I guess is your collab series.
Yeah.
And this came about, this was kind of perfect, actually, to be honest. Like, this one came about, you reached out to us at the time when we were like balls deep in setting up all the collabs, and I was like,
I had no idea that you guys were doing like an anniversary thing with collabs.
It was perfect
because looking for people to do collabs with, and I was like,
so these guys might be down. Well, I saw you do the one with Shelby, and I don't know Shelby well, but I met her a couple of times, and she's a sweetheart. And I was like, oh, that's really sick. Like that your work. I was like, oh, okay, these guys. We had met. We connected because I got the beer in 2023. So we connected back then. We met in person at the OCB conference last November.
Yeah.
Which was dope. And then I can't remember when we started talking for it, but whenever we chatted about this, I was like, well, hey, do you want to make this for our anniversary? Which is awesome, because it would have given a bit more amplification for the collab than what it would normally get because of the event and everything. So this was so perfect, and coming up with this idea was sick, man. Like, let's talk through how this all happened. Basically, I think you were like, what do you want to do? And I told you about the coffee. So we did the coffee collab with Found.
Coffee. I think I told you about the limitations of my system, that I can't really do heavy dry hopping. I can't do higher alcohol. And then you mentioned the coffee, and you're like, maybe like a low ABV stout with the coffee.
Yes,
kind of thing.
Correct, because I was looking for a way to use the coffee as much as possible, really, to be honest.
I think, if I recall, you had three stouts using the coffee, but the two of them were like higher ABV.
That is 100% correct.
There was the small pony
Kanawaki, and small, that was 14%. That was a crazy one. And we had Kanawaki, which was 9%. And we were supposed to have the fun fact here, which I don't think we've ever said, was the Dominion City one, Velvet Voyage, the porter. They were supposed to put some coffee into the keg just for the event. In the end, I don't know what happened, but they decided to not do that. So we that's okay. So then we just had the three, but the good thing is that we really wanted to leverage that. So because you had the limitations on the system, we're like, well, if you're down, because I think you told me that you did the coffee blonde was super popular, and that's not something that me and Nate are really into, and also it would have just copied what you were already doing, so it kind of didn't make much sense. But because you hadn't done a stout like this before, it made so much sense. But the coolest shit about this one for me, by the way, and this is why I love this collab so much, is that you got extra creative and you were like, all right, how about this? For the event, why don't we do a nitro version? And then you brought a nitro jockey box just for it, which was so cool. So we were able to pour this beer. This was the only beer on nitro at the event. You had the beer on nitro at the brewery. You had the cans, which is a regular carb, and the night before, 2 nights before the event. So I came in the night before the event to make sure it was the cask. So we had this beer 3 ways with the coffee, and I'm just like, fuck, dude, this was the coolest shit, man. Like, this was such a fun approach, and I really appreciate you for this as well. I feel like your creativity with this made this extra sick. Like, it was a beer that was already going to be great, and this coffee that we had done with Found was also like full of blueberry. Like, the blueberry notes were bonkers. So using that in this lighter beer allowed it to shine through. It still worked in those larger body beers as well, but it's almost like it sort of came through even stronger. And it was cool because you dosed the cask at a different rate than you dosed the cans that you dosed the nitro. So they all were like, it's like we got 3 beers out of one batch.
Yeah, and it was quite interesting, the difference between them. My favorite was the cask. The cask was great. But obviously the cask really only got to be enjoyed by the people that came in on those couple days when
it lasted like literally 2 days.
It was, yeah, so and we had a lot of people that were drinking it on nitro afterwards being like, oh, we came in for the cask and it was so good, but this is really good too. But like,
oh, this is so good still, bro. This is so good.
So basically designing this beer, the talk was about those blueberry notes and like the subtleties of the coffee and how to get those shine in a stout. And like you said, being a lower ABV stout, that helps to a degree. But I actually designed this beer. It's a stout. We're calling it a stout. I removed all the really roasty grains that give that kind of coffee flavor, because the roasted grains in a stout already give kind of like a coffee vibe, like a roasty coffee vibe. So I removed those all from the beer. So the base beer before we added coffee, actually it was dark because it was darker than a brown ale because I added some of those roasty grains in the end of the mash just for color. So I just got color from them. And I added huskless versions so that you just get color from them. So but the beer tasted, before adding the coffee, tasted like an English brown ale. So it had that.
It was as clear as one almost, because you were sending me photos and I was like,
yeah,
it was pretty, like it really looked like it, but you said it still had like the guts of like a stout.
Yeah, and it had chocolate notes. It had like nutty notes from the grains, but it was kind of missing that roast to it. And the hope was that the coffee would kind of provide that roast. So then I added coffee beans into the fermenter, which give you a heavy aroma.
Whole?
But yeah, whole coffee beans.
Whole beans.
It gives you a heavy aroma. It gives you a bit of flavor. It gives you a bit of the roast. Gives you a bit of the oil from the beans. And then I did cold brew that I injected into the bright tank, and I injected different amount of cold brew for the can versus the nitro, because the nitro tends to round out flavor. So I wanted to make sure we got enough of that roast on the nitro. So I added more
nitro
coffee.
Had the most of
the most coffee, and then the cask had the least, because the cask I added directly to the cask. So I pulled the beer into the cask, hadn't been coffeed yet. I put a bag of beans in the cask, and I knew it was going to sit for a week, so I didn't want to put too many. It was going to sit for about a week and a half to condition. And then I also added cold brew into the cask at the time. And I had, on like with the other beers where I could take a sample, douse it with cold brew, see how it tasted, calculate how much to add. With the cask, I was flying blind because I had no way to really taste how that cask beer was going to taste with the coffee beans, because you seal it up and then you can't open it until you tap it. Right. So I was flying blind. I was guessing. So the cask version had the least coffee flavor, but it had the most of that like English kind of flavor to it, because the warmer temperature and the lower carb, it had a lot more of that character to it, but with enough of the coffee to be like, this is a coffee beer. But the cask kind of tasted almost more like a coffee brown ale to a degree.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I only had like one sampler of all three back to back. I don't remember enough to sort of say that, but I thought they were all different, and they were all interesting, and it was like the perfect sort of way to.
They were definitely all coffee, that's for sure.
Oh,
you got coffee in all of them. So totally.
And look, even at this point, what are we, like probably 2 months out? Like the coffee's punchy on this. The blueberry, I feel like, is a little isn't as prominent, because that would probably be the first thing to go anyway.
To fade, yeah. There was a moment in the middle there where it kind of was shining a little bit, and then it's diminished since then. I feel like it was shining a little bit more with the nitro. But yeah, I guess we brewed that the event was at the end of May, right?
May 31st.
Yeah, so it's about 2 months old at this point.
Yeah,
which we're just about out. We're on the tail end of our last keg, and we're like our last half a case, so we're almost out.
It's happened. That's that's crazy.
And that's on the, I mean, and that's on the slower end for our one-offs, but it's a stout in summer. right? So stouts in summer don't sell quick, but customers are loving it. Everyone's commenting on how smooth it is for being coffee. Like they get the coffee, but it's still smooth, and being a lower ABV beer, it's easy drinking despite having like a decent amount of coffee character to it.
Big time. And this one is 4.7. So it's
4.7%.
like, yeah, I felt like it was like in and of itself, such a sick beer. I'm so happy with it. I was so happy with like I was sort of alluding to earlier, like, like as BOS, we always we love the pure stuff, but I also love experimenting and just kind of like fun, ridiculous shit. Hence the stuff about Rorschach and stuff. And a lot of things that you do is, playing around and just seeing what happens. Like, and I feel like this was just genuinely creative. And I love that we're able to do that and pull it off the week of the event, like 2 days before the event, this came out too. So it was super fresh. It added, because
Yeah, I think we were one of the last ones to brew.
yeah, one of the last ones to drop. There was only, honestly, the last week was more rammed than we anticipated. And it's kind of cool because it was almost like a lot of people saved it to that last minute. I was like, sick. Everyone wanted it to be as fresh as possible for the event. And I was like, okay, sick. So on top of like the individual, because there was 40 collabs, and 41 if you include the coffee. So then if you're looking at like just individual collabs, it doesn't really matter what we do. We can do anything and it's fine. It's just fun. It's a nice little, collab between us. But we also had to look at it from the lens of curating a tap list for an event. And this was like perfect because we didn't have, even I have basic almost everything here. We didn't have anything that was like a low ABV stout. Like the lowest, like the Baltic Porter from Dominion was 7. Nothing else. Oh, the Dark Mild, I guess, which was 3.8 from Flora Hole, which is sort of in
The
that.
Dark Mild was great. It was really good.
Such a good job. So I was happy.
The 14% stout from Small Pony was really good too.
That shit was bonkers. Yeah, that was fucking killer. They really did a great job. So this was like something that was needed. So there was nothing even close to it. Just looking at like the other ones that aren't up here weren't anything like that.
And I feel like it's nice to have some of those lower ABV styles at an event like that, right? Because it's like there's 40 beers. Like if you want to try a lot of them, you're not drinking all the high ABV stuff all the time. You need something that's a break. One of the ones I found was great for that was the Bloody Ripper.
Yes,
from
Block 3.
That was
4%.
Yeah, that was, and it's like dry hop lager. Like that was like
4. Yeah, it's a dry hop rice lager.
At some point, one of my friends that was there was like, I asked him what he's drinking, and he said that, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I need right now is like 4% dry hop lager.
Yep,
like
something like a little like to balance it out, and that was kind of the point, right? Because we had even like non-alcoholic beer. We did a collab with Harmons for that.
We have that at Bickford right now.
You have that on?
Yeah, we have that. We have cans of that at Bickford in our non-alc section.
Yeah. It's so good. They did such a good job. Yeah. I told them, I was like, when they said the two things I pitched to them, I was like, I want a fucking like a murky hazy IPA as non-alcoholic, or like a grisette. And at first they were like, you know what? The grisette sounds great. I'm like, perfect. That's amazing. I love grisette. Then they came back like, no, we're doing the murky hazy IPA. And I had like, it's 2 months old. I had one this week, Monday or Tuesday. It was tasting perfect, super fresh. It's so good. They've done such a great job. But yeah, this particular beer at 4.7%, just looking at, I know I'm off camera, you can't see all of them, but it complemented the offerings in such a great way. And it was only one of 3 beers, as you mentioned, that used the coffee, which I would have loved that to have been more, but it wasn't particularly suited to that many more anyway. So no problem. But I think it just like, and you elevated it by having the nitro at the event and then having the 3 different versions available at the brewery. And I just felt like that was like kind of the perfect collab, because it was such an interesting thing for you and I and Nate to do, but also for the drinkers, for the consumers to come through and try it on nitro at the event. But you come to the brewery, you can get on nitro. It's the first thing when I came in the other day to see you and Kamar. You're like, what do you need? I'm like, give me that white black filter on fucking nitro, brother. Let's go. Like, and it was glorious to have, like, because I think when I went by, I only had little samplers, and I got to have the full pour and like sit on it and enjoy it.
Yeah. And see the cascade of the full glass with the nitro, and
so attractive. Yeah, it's just it's so cool.
We're big on the nitro taps. We have 3 nitro taps, 3 of our 13 taps are nitro. Yeah,
that's awesome. And then 1 Luca too.
And then we have a Lucre. Yeah, so
dude, that's awesome. I never heard anyone have 3 nitro taps. That's funny.
Yeah. So originally I had 1, and when I opened, so my stout was one of the Dog Park and the stout were the 2 beers I contracted before having the brewery. So towards the partway into contracting, one of my licensees in my hometown was like, hey, do you have a stout? Because we like to cook with the stout, and we were using the stout from the local brewery here, but then they changed the recipe and it's terrible, and we don't like cooking with it anymore. If you had a stout, we would cook with it. So I created a stout. I brewed it at 5 paddles on their smaller system, to get it into a couple licensees, and to mainly just to sell kegs to this restaurant that was like selling it, like serving it and cooking with it. So when I opened the brewery, I already had kegs of stout. So I couldn't really put it on the nitro tap because it wasn't carved properly for nitro. So I had to put it on a regular tap. I had a nitro tap for the purpose of the stout. But when I was setting up my opening lineup, I did a batch of English bitter, and I like, I'll carb it for nitro because I have the nitro tap. So I carbed it for nitro, and it's like, that's so good on nitro. So I'm like, well, I'm going to need to get another nitro tap. And then I was doing my I did a batch at the brewery of Dog Park, and I was like, hey, I'm just going to pull 1 keg when it's carbed enough for nitro, and then I'll carb the rest. And I pulled my keg for nitro, and I put it on nitro, and it's like, wow, that American Pale Ale is great on nitro too. So I'm like, okay, I need 3 nitro taps. So I set up 3 nitro taps. And originally we had the stout, the bitter, and the Dog Park. We had the Dog Park available both. We had the Dog Park on a regular tap and the Dog Park on nitro for a while there. So right now on nitro we have the Golden Mild beer we had earlier, the Common Good collab. We have our English bitter, and we have the white black filter, are our 3 nitro taps right now. So when white black filter goes, when the last keg of it goes, we'll put our regular stout back on nitro.
The Gray Street. Nice.
The Gray Street stout, yeah. And then we've got more beers that'll be coming up that'll take up the nitro tap. I don't know if I'll do the English IPA with Floral Hall on nitro. I may just do cask and regular tap, but
I mean, it could work.
I'm sure it'd be great, but I mean, I want to free up the nitro tap for other things.
Also,
I want to try doing. I may at some point try putting the Gose on nitro just for fun to see what happens.
I was literally about to say, I think the Gose would be so fire on that. Dude.
Well, I was talking to the guy from Smithers, and he was like, "Have you ever done a sour on nitro?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "It can be really good. You should try it."
I remember we did a pod with Blood Brothers in like 2018 or something, and they had like a nitro can of like some sort of a sour. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is sick. It's almost like, you know how you get that when you go get a cocktail with the egg white, and it makes that foam. It's kind of like that, but you know, because it's like soft carb, and there's something that's extra creamy about the body. So that's my closest thing, and it's nice because then it's a little sour and puckering, tart, sweet, like just like the raspberry is there. So I feel like that could work pretty.
I might also try at some point doing my coffee blonde on nitro.
That would also be super
I feel like that could be an interesting thing. But yeah, so we've got the 3 nitro taps, so we kind of play around a bit. So that's one of the reasons I was like, let's do nitro. It's kind of one of my things now.
And it's good. It makes you stand out more amongst 40 breweries or whatever. Like it makes that beer specifically stand out a little bit.
I mean 3 out of 13 taps being nitro is not common. Like I've never been. I don't think I've ever been at a brewery that had more than 1 nitro tap.
Not that I can think of. Like unless like Irish pubs or something have like one for Kilkenny, one for Guinness, one for Smittix or something.
The Dog Park was quite interesting on nitro because like with nitro, all the flavors kind of get rounded out a bit. So the harshness of the bitterness kind of gets rounded out. So it's a completely different beer. So it was quite good on nitro, and it may come back to nitro at some point, the dog park. I'm having a hard time putting it on nitro because I have to also keep it on a regular tap because it's one of our core. So then to have one beer take up 2 taps can be difficult.
Seems almost a bit of a waste. I see what you mean.
Yeah. So
I mean, unless it's like a special, like, hey, 1 keg of this on nitro gonna last a week. Unless it's like just
if we have a gap in a nitro tap, for sure. Yeah, that's probably what it'll be from now on. It'll be like, oh, we have a gap in a nitro tap. Let's throw one of the kegs of Dog Park on nitro. But the one that's going to be on the new one that's going to be on nitro for our anniversary in September is going to be the dark mild that I brew with Ernesto and tea and all that.
Yeah. For the cream ale, you mean?
The cream ale, the BC cream ale. I'll probably do that on nitro.
That'd be sick. Which cream?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is I was looking into the origins of cream ale, and like cream ale is one of the truly American styles. There's a few styles of beer that originated in America, and cream ale, California Common, and Kentucky Common are the 3. But there's a BC cream ale, which is a dark mild, and then there's a Montreal cream ale, which apparently there's a period where they just called it any English ale served on nitro a cream ale. So by serving a BC cream ale on nitro, I'm hitting both BC cream ale and Montreal cream ale. So it's a Canadian cream ale.
There you go. You can just call it that.
Yeah.
Yo, that's sick. That's actually kind of perfect.
Yeah. So we'll on nitro. Everyone always asks if we'll do cans in like nitro cans, but our scale is just not doable. There's special equipment you need that's really expensive. So for like our English bitter and for our stout, it's like nitro on tap, regular carb in the can. So
I think that I totally get it, and I also feel like that makes it more interesting because then it's an excuse for people to come in. Say even just for this white back filter, you can come in, you can have it on nitro, and then you take that 4-pack to go,
and it's a different experience.
And it's totally different experience. So this is I don't know if this is my I've had it obviously in can, but I don't know if I've actually had a full can of it that I can think of, because the last time I had it was there and it was the nitro. I mean, maybe I have, or if, dude, it's been a blur.
Some cans, I don't know if you've dug into them yet or if they're in your cellar.
No, I have. Do you know what? I shared stuff. I know I kept some. I've got one in my fridge, and I think I kept an extra one in there for this pod. But then I got this one,
and then I
as
gave
well.
you one,
And I think that's the only reason it's not up on the shelf right now. But I think that's like part of the fun of it. And then on top of that, there was the cask, so it was like the triple banger for this particular beer. But I think that, like, coming back to what we talked about like 2.5 hours ago, was you guys being that neighborhood bar. Even though you're a brewery, you're a neighborhood bar, and there's like an additional reason to come in, because if you've seen a beer that you like on Instagram, you're like, oh, they're posting this looks really fun. Like, you could order, like, do you do online shipping?
Not yet. Soon.
Currently?
Soon,
okay.
Yeah.
So say if you did, then they could.
And that's about to open up nationwide too. Like, they're working on that. It's coming in spring, next spring, I think.
Ooh.
It's going to be completely opened up.
Next spring? Fucking figure it out, mate.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing is next spring for completely open across the whole country. Like right now, it's open to certain provinces.
Okay.
Like, I think as a brewery, I can ship to New Brunswick and Manitoba. It's basically any province that has agreed to allow it, but they're working on like a national framework that kind of makes everybody
able to do it.
Everybody's on the same page. Yeah. I mean, actually, it's everybody but one. And when I heard that, I'm like, that's got to be Quebec. But it's Newfoundland. Quebec's on board, apparently.
So this is what Quebec, that blows my mind. A Quebec brewer told us, it was like, okay, so say if they let you do that, does that mean Quebec breweries can ship to other customers within Quebec? Because that was to say, like, you want to buy from Oval, who are almost impossible to get. If I'm in Montreal and I want to order from Val d'Or in Oval, can you ship to me there? Or can you just ship to me in Toronto or whatever? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they didn't know about yet. Because I guess maybe that's what's taken so long. I just feel like that's such a long time when these tariffs are happening right now. And the whole point was the tariffs were supposed to
I
trigger.
was surprised when I heard next spring too, because I'm like, I thought we were figuring this out now.
I thought it'd be ready by now, by summer. Like this happened in February, Doug. Like
it's not that hard. And my understanding is the trade restrictions are actually unconstitutional. Like the Canadian like federal constitution prohibits trade barriers between provinces.
No shit.
Like the idea is we're supposed to all be one country, right?
Of course, yeah.
So why can't a company in Ontario sell to somebody in Quebec?
Doug, that makes an insane amount of sense.
And my understanding is the only thing that's stopping the federal government doesn't want to cause like a constitutional crisis is what is my understanding. They don't want to be the ones to be like, hey guys, you can't do this. And then
they already said we can't do it though, didn't they?
No, but the federal government, because it's the provincial governments that say you can't sell between provinces.
Oh,
it's the provincial governments that are like putting up barriers and saying,
do you think it's like
in?
Is it like LCBO versus SAQ? Is that because they have this monopoly type of shit between each?
I think so, yeah, because
it has to be.
Because if I'm supposed to buy beer from the LCBO, and then suddenly you're saying, oh, you can buy beer from Quebec.
Oh, then the LCBO loses money from their Ontario customers.
I could be wrong. I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know.
We're just theorizing here. Neither of us are government policy experts. So this is my understanding as well. If
you're listening and you work at the LCBO, please don't prevent my listing of any of my products.
Or just reach out. We'll have you on the podcast so you can explain it. I would love that. That would be amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I know this is what I know about America, and I might have said this on here before, but say one of my favorite breweries is Burial. They're in Asheville, Raleigh, Charlotte, North Carolina. They if I have an address in Lewiston, New York, so I can get stuff shipped there. When I started looking at what I can get shipped there, so many breweries don't ship to New York State. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So Burial last summer opened up to New York State. So my understanding is that because the address they're shipping to is New York State, a North Carolina brewery they can only charge the New York State tax on their beer, and every state tax, just like every provincial tax, is different. So if Bickford is going to ship to a customer in Montreal, you can't charge them a 13% Ontario tax because the beer is going to be consumed in Quebec. So you need to charge them a 14.975 tax.
I know that's the way it works with product that is not beer. Like when I sell a t-shirt and I ship it to Alberta, I can only charge them 7%.
Okay, perfect. So that should be the same thing with beer then.
And exactly, it would be the same thing. And so because when you sell something online and there's no in-person store they buy from, the place of purchase is considered the address that it's delivered to. Oh. Right. So when I ship a product to Calgary, the place that product is considered federally to be purchased in is Calgary.
Understood. Because they didn't physically go to your store in
Toronto. I declare that as GST 7%. I don't declare that as HST as if I sold it to somebody in my store. Right. So I'm sure beer would be the exact same thing. And so it complicates the administration of it from the accounting side. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like they have to have reciprocal agreements or whatever.
And I can see places that are smaller breweries or whatever not wanting to hassle with having to deal with the paperwork of selling stuff out of state, right?
Yeah. So, but then exactly the point. But if the government now, from what you're just saying about if it's next spring, if they eradicate that and take the burden off the individual, because it's almost like, this is what I understood it as, is like if the province, because I heard, and I don't know if this is true, that it's been legal, and maybe this kind of actually plays into what you were saying before, federally for years.
Yeah, totally.
But each province, so like say Ontario, government of Ontario, not each brewery, has to go and make a deal with Quebec, and they have to have all the paperwork. Then they have to make a deal with New Brunswick. They have to make a deal with Nova Scotia. They have to make a deal with Manitoba, and they got to do that 13 times over, and each province has to do the same thing. And none of them bothered to do it. That's what somebody told us on the podcast years ago.
And the issue too is, like in Ontario, the LCBO has the rights to the sale of alcohol, right? So with beer, the LCBO has granted breweries the rights to sell alcohol directly to bars. That's not the case with wine. With wine, all sales have to go through the LCBO,
Right.
but the LCBO allows breweries to sell directly to licensees. So I can sell to a bar, I invoice the bar directly, I declare on my taxes that I sold to that bar, I pay the Ontario taxes, but I don't have to channel that sale through the LCBO.
Gotcha.
Right? But the LCBO has the rights to sale. So then it becomes like if I sell beer and I send it to New Brunswick, that's working outside that framework because the LCBO has nothing to do with New Brunswick. So they basically, every province has to change how their laws about the sale of alcohol work
in order for that to facilitate.
in order for it to be like, hey, this is legal. Because right now, if I sell beer to someone in New Brunswick, under the current framework, it's like that's against provincial law.
Gotcha.
Because the provincial law grants me as a brewery the right to sell through my retail store permit directly to consumers in Ontario, through my manufacturer's license directly to bars. It doesn't grant me the right to sell directly to consumers in other provinces. So they basically, every province has to like reform their actual like liquor sales laws, their provincial liquor sales laws. And the issue is that the provincial government has been given sole regulation of sale of alcohol, right? So the federal government can't really say you can sell alcohol to wherever because it's not their jurisdiction.
Gotcha.
Because they've granted sale of alcohol to the province. So every province has to now amend their laws. So that's probably what's taking so long, is because every province has to like put changes to laws through the legislative process to like revise the laws to allow that to happen. So it's really annoying because like you said, it's supposed to be in response to this whole tariff thing, but if it was response, yeah, it's like, what happens if the tariff thing is gone by that point? Like,
yeah, then it's like, oh, then are they going to continue? Are they going to bother?
I mean, they should.
Damn right they should.
It's absurd to me that I can't buy beer from BC.
Absolutely. And sell to beer to BC.
Or from Quebec or from, whatever. Because it's like there's great beer in other provinces that we don't get to try unless we travel to those provinces. Like,
I mean, I understand the reasoning for like, well, you can't do it, so you have to go travel, and that's part of the experience. But at the same token, maybe I've heard about a brewery that's killer in X city or X province, and I want to just order a bunch of stuff to test it out. If it's so fire, then I'm like, you know what? I really think I need to go there. I want to go to the place and see it. So it's like encouraging tourism. It's not discouraging from the tourism.
And I mean, in general, in the States, you can get beer from any state. Like the California beer,
not always.
I mean, in the big guys for sure. Like you can
big
get
guys because they have this.
You can get Sierra Nevada anywhere. You can get, the big guys you can get anywhere.
Sure.
You can get Bell's Two Hearted in most states, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, I got it everywhere. Because when we're in Florida, we've done it twice for like a month at a time. And I was like, you
said,
I can order. And I'm like, I checked, and it's not even the only breweries that ship to Florida were like other half. And I'm like, well, I live just over the border from other half, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, why am I going to order that? Yeah,
I can just go over to Buffalo and get it like fresh and right from the source. So I'm like, there was basically nothing. I got some from my friends who own a brewery in California called Crowns and Hops. But I know him, and he did me a favor. I don't think he was supposed to do it. So like there's. It was equally as frustrating even in Florida, just like me with my PO box in New York. Like I remember I had during the pandemic, I had a mate in Vermont, and we ordered from the Vale and we ordered from Trillium, and then we split it. And then he got it to me in Montreal. But I can't order to my Lewiston address from the Vale or Trillium because neither of those companies have a deal with New York to ship it out there.
So one of the interesting things I forgot too about the States is each state has different distribution laws. So in some states, breweries are not even allowed to self-distribute. So in some states, as a brewery, you can't even sell your beer to a bar. You have to sell your beer to a distributor that sells it to the bar. And so I could see that would affect state to state. transaction as well. Because if the state you're in doesn't allow you to self-distribute, and it doesn't allow the distributors to distribute to another state, then how are you going to distribute to another state, right? Like the states is a funny thing in that regard, because they're
weird.
The state to state laws are just so different. Like they just put so much emphasis on the state having so much control that like you can have two states next to each other that have completely different laws.
That's really true. I always find it odd that, like, say, like Trillium will ship to Vermont, they'll ship to New Hampshire, but they won't ship to New York. So there's something going on there that I don't understand. That must be complicated. That Burial were industrious enough to be like, we're going to figure this out. And they started doing it. And they were just, and I've ordered for them like 4 or 5 times, because they're the only brewery, they're my favorite anyway, but they're the only ones who bother. And they pack it really well, and they got great merch, and they got the bottle. Like, I'm like, cool. Well, I'll just keep ordering from them rather than somebody else.
I'm sure it comes down to complications in the distribution laws, and like whether you have the ability to figure out the workarounds to like work within the law, right? Like,
but then other North Carolina breweries don't do it though. So it's I think it's each one. This is my complete bullshit out my ass theory. Is that if like some breweries in Massachusetts, I don't know if that's true, will ship to New York, then why aren't the other ones? That means they didn't do it. They didn't figure it out. Or if Burial do, but why aren't the other North Carolina breweries doing it? So I feel like there's like it almost be, I was saying before, like each province has to have a deal with the other province, which is probably going to be changed because of what you were saying with the federal thing, that potentially in the States is each brewery has to figure it out with that state. Be like, hey, if you want to ship to New York, you have to fill out all of this paperwork. You got to go through all of this nonsense. And then you got to do the exact same thing 49 times. There's 50 states, well, not including Hawaii and stuff. And in Canada, it's only 13. So it's even that's a pain in the ass. So I feel like there's whatever it is, there's some sort of crazy complication. Then there's the, like you were mentioning, the 3-tier system. A brewery in Florida was telling me if there's a bar across the street, he can't sell to that bar across the street because he signed a lifetime deal with a distributor. So he has to go, that bar has to go to that distributor, even though he could literally walk the case across the street. He's not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And these distributors can hold you hostage. We did a full pod about it on the Business of Beer series. Check it out, Kevin from Barrel of Monks. And he was saying that like, he got almost all of his ones back, but they don't ever have to sell it back to you. They own it in perpetuity. So if they want to be pricks, a company can buy your rights as a distributor and then just be like, yeah, I'm never going to sell your beer ever, and I own your beer rights to this territory, and you are never going to be able to ever sell beer in this territory. And they have full legal right to. Isn't that crazy?
Absurd. And I mean, there's a lot of things.
Like, give me $2 million, and you're like, well, it's probably worth 10 grand. And they're just like, well, eat my ass. I'm not doing it. And that's really how bad it is out there. It's fucking crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't do right here, but I'm glad that that's not one of them, because like the fact that I can sell to anybody I want to that has a liquor license is
at
like
least
directly.
Yeah,
at least in the province is big. And I was confused when I first got my manufacturer's license. So the federal government regulates the manufacture of alcohol, the provincial government regulates the sale of it. When I first got my manufacturer's license as a contract brewer, the license, when they give it to you, they say this only gives you the rights to sell to the LCBO. And I was confused. I'm like, I'm not selling to the LCBO. I want to sell to bars. And then I figured out that basically the way the law works with the AGCO is only the LCBO has exclusive rights to the sale of it. So the only reason I can sell to a bar is because the LCBO has said, hey, breweries with manufacturer's license, you're allowed to sell directly to the bar. You don't have to involve us.
But you do, when you were contracting only, you had to.
No, I didn't have to, but just the way the law's written, they're like, you can only sell to the LCBO. But because it's beer, they're like, oh, well, but no, you can sell to anybody. But it's the LCBO that says that. As far as the AGCO is concerned, you're only allowed to sell to the LCBO, which is really weird. Our laws are written really, it's like a patchwork of like old laws that they
from 100 years ago
that they put patches on to like fix issues. And it's like, in order to navigate it, you need to like have a special degree in like in like law, like to even figure out like what what does this even mean?
That's so
Um,
crazy.
but
And
yeah,
they
the
never
fact
changed it from
they,
all
ne-
of those
they
years ago.
yeah, and like the requirement so many of our laws revolve around preventing bars from directly selling beer, and then during
Right.
COVID they allowed bottle shops, which allows bars to directly sell beer, but they still have all these weird laws in place for breweries that are meant to prevent them from like working around rules that no longer exist. And it's like, why don't you just change the laws? Like, and why does a bottle shop have to sell a food item with their beer?
A 50-cent packet of chips or something. Like
Yeah,
it's so
one of the
arbitrary.
bottle shops we sell to sells a 1 cent package of rocket candies, and that's their
I've
food item. Like,
I've had others do like quarter, like a little lifesaver in the single packet or something like the
yeah,
mint.
it's absurd. It's insane.
It's like, to be honest, the places I go, if they know you, they don't even bother doing it.
A lot of them
'Cause
don't. A lot of
no,
them
because like,
don't.
what's the point? But if someone's working there and they don't know me, then they'll do it. I'm like, okay, I get
Well,
a packet
because
of chips.
you might be an AGCO
Sure, if
inspector,
they don't
right?
know me, then that's fine. Then
Yeah,
I'll get a packet of chips out of it. I'm not mad, but like, it's just like it's such the
it's so
burden, man.
backwards. It's
It's
so
so
backwards.
backwards. I remember learning during COVID that it was the law in Quebec, because this is when I was still there, was from 1928 is the law that's
That
still
doesn't surprise
essentially running
me.
everything. It is 2025. The fact
Nothing,
that it is
nothing,
97 years, dude.
nothing like your liquor laws being written around the time of prohibition.
Around like balls deep in prohibition. Like, fuck, man. It's crazy. And just
Yeah,
the fact that nobody changes it. This is like when you start really thinking about how insane
they
the
just put
system
patches on
is.
top of it. They just put like amendments to it. There was a thing a little while ago during with the bottle shops where they had just shoehorned the legislation to allow bottle shops to allow
Mhm,
restaurants and bars to sell to go during COVID
mhm.
in a way that it piggybacked on a law for delivery of alcohol.
Okay.
And it required bottle shops to take name, address, and phone number of anybody that bought beer from them
Get
or
fucked.
alcohol from them. So
Stop it.
it's like totally like 1984, like the government's taking your address when you buy alcohol kind of shit, right? And
They don't do that when you buy marijuana.
no inspectors were really enforcing it. And then
Right.
Bossa Nova and Roncesvalles had an inspector that just wanted to be, a dick about it. And they said, hey, show me your log of customers' information that you've taken from when they buy alcohol. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, the law says you have to take name, address, but it's based on delivery. Basically, what they're saying is if you deliver to somebody's address, you got to keep a record of that address
Well, you would have that because they don't order online.
because they have to
But
give you their address to deliver
but
them.
if they,
But
yeah,
if they're coming into the shop, why do you need to take their address? Like, that's
of
insane.
course, no one's gonna give that to you. I'm like, I'm not telling you where I live. I'm just
Well,
buying the beer.
well, and that's what happened is the government said you have to do this, and they're like, that's
That's insane.
absurd. But if
You're
you're
right.
going to force me to, I'll do it. And they were having customers walk out because if you walk into a place, you'd be like, I want to buy this can of beer, and they're like, what's your address? You're going to be like,
You're
what are
like,
you?
no.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? I just want to take this can of beer
Jesus.
home. So that
That's
they
so crazy.
Bossa Nova got like word out through like I think they got it through to the CBC, and the CBC did an article about it. There was a big like crisis thing in the Ontario government, and they were like, let's change this now. So they like issued a notice to all the licensees being like, we've revised this law to exclude this portion that says you need to take. But it's like crazy that nobody, when they were allowing bottle shops, said, hey, does anybody think it's a problem that we're requiring bottle shops to take an address when somebody buys a can of beer? Like,
Fuck, man.
they
That's one
just
of the
don't.
craziest things I've heard. That's
They
so
just
wild.
they just don't think about it. They're just like, oh,
No.
let's just modify this law with this patch that we're going to throw on it.
Right. As opposed
Nobody's
to looking at the
nobody.
intricate details.
Yeah,
Does it
it's
make
like
sense?
it's like dig into that law, figure out what's wrong with that law, and rewrite the law. Don't just throw a patch on it. That's like,
It's
but yeah,
also fuck that's really bonkers. It shows how desperately we all need this stuff. And I'm like, even just like, which I won't go into too deep here, but like from what I've heard from breweries here is that, and not even just breweries, just businesses in Hamilton, is that the city's default answer to everything is no. So you want to do
yeah,
anything, you're gonna ask them the first time, they're gonna say no. Then you have to, they won't help you. you have to go through every line by line of the city law, and then you have to call them back or email and be like, hey, clause 13 XIB blah, blah, says this, so that means I can do it. Then they're just going to be like, okay, they won't even apologize. They just say
they're not trying to help you. They're just saying no and then making you find the thing that forces them to do what you want to do.
Thank you. Exactly. And I'm like, well, okay, well, you pricks want tax revenue, so this is giving you tax revenue. Like, I don't understand, in this year of our Lord of 2025, with all of the shit that's going on in the world, how you fix your face to stop an entrepreneur or anybody from doing something that's as harmless as opening a business. Now, obviously, there's regulations in place to make sure people don't get hurt and I'm with that for sure. But all these things are just ridiculous. And like you were saying, they're archaic. They're from decades, if not a century ago. And none of it makes any sense. And everything seems to be to stop progress. And I don't understand why anybody, any bureaucrats, would want to stop this progress. And it's affecting not just like the brewery industry, but literally, and that's even 10x harder because there's all the alcohol permits that you were discussing earlier. Then there's just, I'm even talking if you wanted to open a cafe or you want to open a fucking bakery or some shit. It's damn near impossible here, and that's why nothing happens, and then things get stagnant. I go to the States, and while it's far from a perfect place, like, in comparison, the amount of stores that have like newspaper windows that are just shut down on main streets, it's a small fraction of what it is here in Canada. Between, at least I could very aggressively talk about Montreal, Toronto, and Hamilton. Like, it's really bad between the three of us. But if you go to Florida, you go to Buffalo, even, like, it's so much better. I'm like, okay, once again, States has a lot of flaws, a lot of problems going on, particularly right now. But like, it's just like, you just see the difference right there, and you're just like, okay, well, what do you want here? Do you want a stagnant society where like you're stopping people from hiring people? Because all they're doing is stopping more revenue. They're going to be paying payroll taxes and
at a certain point, somebody just needs to apply common sense to what the law tells them.
You think, like, or change the laws, or just like, don't say no. How about the default answer is yes, and as opposed to no.
The thing is, for years, AGCO inspectors were applying common sense when it came to that law about taking somebody's address when they buy a can of beer in a bottle shop. Right. All it takes is one inspector to look at that law and be like, but the law says that you have to do this, and not apply any common sense to it and think about why the hell would you need to take an address when somebody's buying a can of beer to take home. Like, and that's all it took is Bossa Nova just happened to get the inspector that was like, but the law says. But it's
good for them for taking it further.
But why does the law say that? Like, can you explain to me like what the harm is in me not knowing the address of the person that bought this can of beer? Like,
what difference? Are they going to beer or are they going to buy a coffee? Like, what difference does it make? They're going to buy a croissant. Okay.
And as you would expect, Bossa Nova said when they basically people would come in and try to buy alcohol, and they'd be like, hey, just so you know, the AGCO is forcing us to do this thing. We need to ask for this. They said like half the people just walked out. They just said no thanks and walked out.
So as you would expect, tax revenue. As you would expect, if you go into a place to buy alcohol and they say, give us all your contact information so we know who bought this alcohol, it's like, that's a little weird. They don't even do that with weed, though. Coming back to that, like, they do in other places, to be honest. When I've bought weed in Massachusetts, in Colorado, maybe New York, I think they took my address too. But in Ontario, they don't. In Quebec, they don't. I order weed online. I have more rights with marijuana than I do with anything else. I used to order weed online in Quebec, and you can't do shit there. You can't order beer online, but I can order weed, and it's a brand new product.
That's so weird.
Isn't it ridiculous? Like, I appreciate it, but I mean, like, don't treat one.
But do you know what? Do you know what the difference is?
No, I don't.
They legislated the sale of alcohol in the middle of 100
years ago.
They legislated the sale of weed more recently. So they were applying modern common sense to it. When they legislated alcohol, they were still thinking alcohol was the devil.
Gotcha. So then why wouldn't you be like, well, we got this federal legalization of this product that never harmed anybody ever anyway. So how about we just apply that to the other stuff?
Yeah.
it's
but
just
but
the
they don't
backwards,
apply
man.
common sense to it, right? They're like, this is the law, so that's the law, so that can't be changed. And it's like, yeah, but it can. You can just rewrite
You
the
can,
law.
because laws are made by humans and everything
Yeah.
is fake, and we can do anything we want at any time because nothing's real. We can make it how we want it to be. We can
Yeah.
make this place pretty sick if we really want it to be, or we can make it shit, and you're choosing to make it shit. So what
Yeah.
the fuck are we doing here? Yeah, it's the more I think about it, the more angry I get, and I'm like, you're in a my business doesn't really get affected by any of this stuff because I don't have a brick and mortar, but like
Yeah.
I have so much empathy for you and all of the breweries that we talk to here, and just business owners in general who are trying to do something cool and make a difference and start a business and thrive and make things good for their family and their communities. And then it's just these bullshit rules that make things so difficult. It's so like, I don't know, disheartening and just sad. You're right. 1984 is the best thing. I'm like, the fuck are we doing? What are, if as a society, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And I know it's just business, but I'm like, that's how people make a living. That's how people spend their time. That's how, like, I don't know, just like you were saying earlier about your dedication to Ontario ingredients, right? I imagine you have the same thing, just like we do. We go to our local cafes, we go to a local butcher, our local fish place. And I know all the people. If we leave town for a while, I got to go tell a whole bunch of different people, hey, I don't hate you. I'm just out of
not
town.
Around. Yeah.
I'm just not around. I'll be back in 2 months, and I'm going to be right back there. But that's the beauty of it, and I love that. I'm proud to do that, just like you're proud to use Ontario and Canadian ingredients. And they're stopping the progression of that, and that is the crux of a community. And I just like, and if that's not intentional, then what is it? What are we doing here? It's
I'll tell you, opening a brewery, one of the most frustrating things about opening a brewery is like you're regulated by every level of government, and they don't talk to each other, but they all require something from the other in order to get the thing you need.
And you have to get the other thing from the other, probably.
Totally. And they don't even the same government, but different departments. Like you apply for a manufacturer's license with the AGCO. The AGCO grants you the manufacturer's license. They then tell the Ministry of Finance at the Ontario government that you were given a manufacturer's license. The Ontario government, the Ministry of Finance then contacts you and asks for all the same information you already gave to the AGCO. But they don't they literally called me and they're like, hey, can you answer these questions? And they started asking some of the same questions I answered in my paperwork to the AGCO. And it took me a second to be like, wait a second, what did the AGCO tell you? Like, what do you already know? And they're like, oh, we were just told you got a license. We don't know anything else about you other than the AGCO said you got a license and this was your phone number. So then I had to be like, okay, well, let me send you the entire business plan and packet of information I already submitted to the other organization of the Ontario government so that you also know what I already told the government. Like it was a little bit absurd to me that it's like, you guys can't even talk to each other. Like, and then when you wrap the federal government into it, because like I said, the manufacturing of alcohol is regulated by the federal government. The sale of it is by the provincial. So to open the brewery, I needed a license from the federal, which is literally from the CRA, because all they care about is the tax revenue from it. So it's literally the CRA you're dealing with. And then you need the license from them, and you need to show that to the provincial government before they'll give you the license for the actual brewery to be able to sell the alcohol that you are now. So it's like it turns what should be like a 1 or 2 month licensing process into like a 4-month nightmare.
Jesus Christ.
Because you're having to like bounce paperwork between the different agencies of the government, and like
all of this stuff should take a week.
And all the while you're paying rent because you can't even apply for the federal license until you have a lease.
And then you can't make the product anyway to have the product ready to go, and beer takes time.
You're not allowed to make it. So
you're not allowed to make it yet. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, God, this is so frustrating.
Yeah.
I can't stand. Yeah. Can we take a quick break and then we'll finish up? Yeah. All right. We'll do this. And we are back. So, Uncle Andrew, with all of that, that was a great little, we went on a bit of a tangent there. That was fun.
Yeah.
I think it was important. It's something that we're all passionate about here. So we talk about this stuff a lot on the pod. So it's not uncommon to go down this rabbit hole of laws and the hypocrisies of it, in not just in Canada but everywhere. So it's always a good time to vent out little frustrations there. But bro, this has been I know we're at like 3.5 hours, so this has been sick, man. Like it's been really cool to crush a bunch of the beers. Like we were saying off air earlier, that like the times I'd been there was always kind of like a little quicker and hadn't really had the time to soak it up. So this was like long overdue, and I appreciate these beers were all fucking fantastic, dude. It's great. Like it's almost like you have no business making beer this good in this tiny little system, and I think that's speaks to the quality of what you were doing as a home brewer. If you're out there and second brew in, winning all these contests, and it's I don't know. I think it's awesome, and once again, seeing the place on it was a Saturday. I think we came by, and if it was earlier in the afternoon, and people just kept coming through, and there were the people that you wouldn't necessarily predict that would come into a brewery. And I just thought, they'd come in. I remember seeing one girl came in, bought like a 6-pack of the cookies off Kamar, off a cookie called Quest, and then just sat at the bar and was just like drinking pints and slowly eating the cookies, like on a phone or reading a book or something. I was like, that's fucking awesome. I was just like, that's the I don't know. I thought it was just beautiful.
We get a lot of people that come in and have a pint or two while reading a book, like just neighborhood bar, gonna go read my book, gonna enjoy a beer while I do it. We get that. We get that a lot.
It's very cool. So maybe to you it's kind of like, it's pretty normal, and just seeing that though, like I don't know, I'm like, that is what craft beer is about. It's like when I think the real what's the word? Not the truth. Like the secret to the longevity of craft beer is, I notice in America, a lot of the places with the most like sort of diverse people who pop into a brewery, and I could tell that these people that I saw there were like, this is a bar to them. It's not a brewery. It's not this whole thing. It's just cool place to come and drink, and they happen to make the beverages that they're drinking. Like that's what we need to get to, I think, in Canada a little more, to get more people involved in beer and more people understanding what it is, and that like it is for everybody, and that it can go with every cuisine, and that it's the most diverse beverage as far as the flavor profiles and what it can be paired with. And like neighborhood bars / breweries like yourself are really kind of like the hub of that, because you're introducing people to stuff, and maybe that to some folks in your area, you're the neighborhood bar, but then you're introducing them maybe unbeknownst to you or even them. You're just like talking to them, and maybe they know some stuff, maybe they don't. Maybe they never tried a Gose before. I'm like, Jesus, this is awesome. Wow, this is and then you start blowing minds, and then now they might be like, well, maybe I should check some other breweries out, and they start to become a craft brewery customer, and that's what grows the industry. And I think that's arguably or potentially the future of what we're doing. So I think it's sick what you built, dude. And
thank you.
To be not even a year in and have these accolades and doing all this cool stuff by working with folks like us and the creators and Instagrammers and other breweries in the scene, and I don't know, you've done a lot in a year. It's you should be proud. It's very cool, bro.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful thing. So what would you want to tell? Obviously you got the anniversary coming up in September. We talked about that, but is there anything else that you want people to know about? Once again, pod coming out in a couple of weeks. Is there anything specifically to that time frame that you want people to know about?
Yep, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing, coming out with cool beers. We got some more fruit goses, some more patio crushers, some more, a little bit of everything coming out. Soaking up the last bit of summer while we have it. In our little,
say lost just yet.
In our little construction zone we have in front of us that is apparently going to last all summer. But people keep asking us, how's the construction been affecting you? And I'm like, I don't know. This is my first year. So we'll find out next year.
Come through anyway.
We'll find out next. Well, that's the thing, is we're large foot traffic. Like people aren't driving there largely. So like people in the neighborhood are going to walk up and buy beer, whether there's the roads ripped up or not.
Exactly.
As long as the sidewalk's not ripped up, I guess.
It's been fine so far.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just doing more of the same, making good beers, serving the neighborhood. We do our trivia nights. We do our we have comedy nights. We have bit of everything. Smallest brewery in the city, just like, being a vibe, I guess.
I love that. Smallest brewery in the city is a good one. I'm gonna write that down as a potential name. I love it. Andrew, this has been awesome, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time, for hanging out. This is great. Long time coming. So I'm glad that we got this in, particularly while we still have cans of the collab as well, because I felt like that's a good one
For sure.
to be chatting about.
Thanks for having me.
Man, it's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you again for doing the collab, and just man, I appreciate you a lot. Where can everybody find Bickford online and in real life?
Online, you can find us on Instagram, Bickford Brewing Co. You can find us bickfordbrewing.ca. In real life, 292 Harvard Street, Toronto, between Bathurst and Ossington on Harvard. Come check us out.
Not too far from, say, Christie Pitts. I used to live at Ossington and Bloor for a couple of years.
Just around the corner from Christie Pitts, just down the street from Bickford Park. So it's just we're on Harvard there, just sandwiched between Little Italy and Koreatown.
It's a beautiful. Are you allowed to drink in the parks legally still, or was that
in certain parks? So Christie Pitts, you are allowed to drink in. We do get a lot of customers that grab our beer to drink it in Bickford Park, which technically is not legal, but
as long as you tell them, hey, walk a couple blocks north.
I don't ask them where they're going with the beer. I just sell them the beer. They can
well, you don't know where they're going with it. They could just be taking it home like good citizens.
They're grown adults. They can with the product what they want after they walk out the door.
I respect and admire it.
Yeah. But no, the parks, the drinking in parks program is still alive, but it is select parks. But Christie Pitts is one of them. So Christie Pitts, I believe Bellwoods is one of them. So there's a bunch of parks in the area that you can enjoy our fine products. So
I love it. I'm here for it. Andrew, stick around. Once I wrap it up, we'll finish up off air. But dude, thank you again for hanging out. This is awesome.
Yep.
Folks, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your audio. Give us 5 stars on there if you can. It means a lot. Don't do it for us. Do it for Andrew. Do it for Bickford Brewing. Do it for Toronto, for Ontario craft beer, for legislative change in Canada. That's what we're here for. And folks, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, all.